Hey, and welcome to Thursday Night Reconnected. And I'm stoked because this is the first time John has been here for Reconnected. John, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy sports-filled life to do this.
No, thanks for having me. This is like I watch you every week, and now I'm on the show. I feel like it's they called my name with The Price is Right, and I came down and like I'm ready to bid. I'm ready. Let's go.
Well, you've been training for years doing the Oscar show, and now we
Right.
figured it's time for the real thing. I'm so stoked that you're here. You are genuinely one of my favorite people in all of this, and
Thank
I'm
you. Me too.
just stoked to have you around. And love the backdrop. I don't think we've had the collection
Yeah,
backdrop before.
I'm in a little bit of a transitional period with my movie room. It's because it doubles as my wife's office, and it's sort of outgrown that space, and so I'm in a transitional period. We're calling it with the collection. So I
The
found
only
the one clean corner.
the only bad part is we don't get to see all the Emmys.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's I don't have a wide enough lens.
What a flex. God, I love that. Yeah, that's congratulations, by the way,
Thanks.
on the most recent one. That's what, 5 now?
That's six now. Yeah, six.
Jeez.
Yeah. So yeah, it was that's it's always a fun mail day when that comes here. So it's my wife, sees the box and she's like, "You have more movies at the front door." And so I was like, "All right, awesome." And then I was like, "Oh, this is better. This is an actual an Emmy."
Right.
That's
You
not
you
an,
could sell that to buy more movies, yeah.
that's true. Yeah, if we hit rock bottom, at least I have those.
Just before we get into everything, Sibner was saying, is John ordering porn with us later? For heads up for everybody that doesn't know, the Mail You Seen Valentine's Day sale, that doesn't start till tomorrow at noon. This is the first time they've done that where it's not midnight tonight. The sale for Vinegar Syndrome is tomorrow at noon, and everything on the Mail You Seen site will be on sale. Go check it out. They got a couple new titles coming. It looks like it's going to be pretty great. Are you one that's dipped into any of the adult titles so far from them?
I have not. No, and thank God they're not doing it at midnight, so I am not a part of that.
Totally get it. We're gonna get into a bunch of stuff, but as I just alluded to, John, you've been here for all of the Oscar shows so far, and I'm not even sure if this is true yet, but I did see this get posted today. It looks like they might be introducing a best casting category starting in 2026. If that's the case, how do you feel?
um, I am one of those people that never complains about the length of the Oscars. Like they can go all night for all I care. I
Right.
love it so much. I don't need them to speed it up. Add more category. Add a stunt category. I think this is a great category because it sort of goes beyond just the performance and it gets to you know you know Elvis. We got to cast Elvis. Like that's it always comes back to Elvis on this show, doesn't it? Um,
Yes.
so you got to find the right Elvis that makes the movie, and so that kind of it's an interesting category. It's going to be a whole new way of thinking about things. So I think it's great.
I man, I'm torn because I agree that best casting is a really good idea, but also I kind of want to see like a best. I mean, obviously stunts is the obvious go to
Yeah.
that should be here, but I want to see something for best ensemble, like something for everybody comes together and just has this perfect chemistry and some way to quantify that, which obviously is nigh impossible, but that would be really cool.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, maybe they just don't want to step on the Screen Actors Guild's thunder. 'Cause that's kind of their big thing.
Right.
But no, I'd be all for that. Bring on all the awards. Bring everybody gets a trophy.
That would be swell. Enough about the Oscars. We will be discussing the Oscars more soon when the ceremony actually happens. But it's time for some fun stuff. What pickups you got coming recently?
Pickups. Okay. Pickups. I have Peeping Tom, Studio Canal. I finally
Lucky.
get to replace this, which I've
Oof.
had for a long time. I think this thing has been out of print for a little while,
Yeah.
but yeah, this DVD gets to go bye-bye now. So we have this now. I assume Criterion's eventually going to get that, but I'm no longer in the business of waiting for Criterion. So I'm happy with the Studio Canal disc. It was there. I wanted it, so I got it. I got Super Mario Brothers from Umbrella.
Nice.
This is one of my all-time childhood nostalgia favorites here. This is just, you can't top this. This is just, Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo. It's just money. Another nostalgia pickup that just came in recently. Three Ninjas. I got this from Orbit.
Sweet.
I mean, this is just, I was obsessed with the first couple movies when I was a kid. 1992 was the first one, and so that was right in my wheelhouse as a 5-year-old. What else I got here? Oh, since you just recently interviewed him, Suitable Flesh.
Ooh, yes, good flick.
Yeah, one of my favorite films of the year last year. What else I got over here? High Tension came in. I actually have never seen this, so this will be a first time watch.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the rest of the French Extremity wave that happened?
It's such a blind spot for me. So I'm kind of a novice when it comes to those films, and I feel like High Tension might be a good jumping off point. I don't know. I own Martyrs. I have not put that in the player yet. I just haven't found the right time. I feel like you got to be in the mood for that.
Yeah,
so
certainly.
I haven't been in that mood quite yet, but maybe we'll get there after the show. I don't know.
You got to be ready for a lot of gravity with that one, and
Yeah.
it's different than the rest of the French Extremity, because even something like Inside, like there's some breathing points. With Martyrs, it is really bad, and then you just start to feel bad as it goes on and on. So
yeah, and I'm kind of into that because I love movies where you feel bad. I love to feel something, and
exactly.
bad, it's I love Von Trier. I love Haneke. I love movies with a severe sense of dread. So maybe I need to dive head first. It's just about finding the time.
I would agree.
And like everybody else, my last one would be I have Conan that came in. So
nice.
I'm excited to have this. So that'll be fun to give a spin. Those are my pickups. How about you?
I've got the other side, which I kind of feel bad showing these because I know a lot of people are still waiting. But OCN finally arrived literally today or yesterday, I think. So giving some love to Bill Plimpton with the tune from Deaf Crocodile. As literally, as Craig says, sorry I'm late. What's going on, Craig? Look, had to show it off. I'm very, very excited to get that in. The other one that I was probably most excited for this month is Gay USA. This is the release from Altered Innocence, which is full of some documentaries and a bunch of extra features. But maybe, the biggest story from the month for Vinegar Syndrome is the cinematograph releases, and these are insanity. I mean,
they're something else, man. I have them here too. These things are, I mean,
the attention to detail, the branding, the feeling, it's wild.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have next. I mean, the way that Justin has sort of built it up, it's like, I feel like anything's possible at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive what they've been able to do just with the first month with 2 releases. I will likely be watching Little Darlings here in the next couple days, and Red Rock West soon after that. But I don't know. It's a big deal for Justin. I know that he's put a lot of work into both of those, especially for 2 films that people have been literally begging for on physical media for years. And Red Rock obviously got a couple recent releases, but now, I mean, now you got your choices for Red Rock. That's the hard part.
Really, yeah. And Little Darlings, I mean, that's huge. So that movie was sort of not my radar ever until I heard it talked about on the Video Archives podcast.
Yep.
With Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery. And they had a whole episode as it was devoted to Little Darlings, and so I immediately went looking for it, and there was nothing out there. And Orbit had a DVD, and I'm pretty sure that's like I don't know what that is. It's something.
It's a bootleg.
It's a bootleg. So I was thrilled to actually get a real copy of it. So very cool.
It's a big deal. And the other big thing is you watch a lot of movies, especially modern cinema. What was that? Cinema. What have you been watching?
Oh, man. So if you remember during our Oscar show, my one blind spot that I hadn't been able to see yet was Zone of Interest.
Yep.
So I saw Zone of Interest in New York City at the Alamo Drafthouse, Lower Manhattan. And it was just, that's one of those movies that ends and you just sink into the chair. It was quite an experience. The sound design on that movie was I just got a chill that going down my arm thinking
Yep.
about the audio on that film and the way he shot it. It's almost like CCTV. I mean, the restraint that he
Oh
uses.
yeah.
It's quite it's quite an achievement. I mean, he really shackles you to that chair and does not let you move. I mean, how do you show the oh, look who it is. Look who it is. How do you show the unfathomable? I mean, you
Right.
can't. And he never really takes you beyond that wall. But he's certain what his strategy is just as effective or more because it exists here.
Yeah, I believe he was quoted as saying he left like 5 or 6 cameras just running full time in the house just to be able to capture like the nuances of the movement of people going through the house and to be able to get the dread of nothing moving and just hearing the
Totally.
sounds, and it's so perfect.
Oh, it's haunting. It is haunting. I mean, it's when I left the theater, I go, I'm not sure I ever want to see that again. But as the days have gone by, I find myself thinking about it, and that's how you know a movie is really dug in. And I can't wait for it to come out on discs. Like I really want to revisit that. But my other watches, I've really dove headfirst into Jonathan Glazer the last couple days. Um, I'd only ever seen Under the Skin, and so
Right.
I'd never seen Sexy Beast and Birth. Um, I watched Sexy Beast 2 or 3 days ago. Blew me away. Totally blew me away. It's like a 90-minute crime movie. Razor sharp performances. Ben Kingsley plays the villain. I'm not sure there's ever been a movie in the last 25 years, a villain has been that scary and done so little in the film. It's scary as hell. And Birth, I knew nothing about this movie. It's Nicole Kidman. Um, the premise is her husband dies, and 10 years later, a little boy comes to her door claiming to be her husband. And it goes places, man. It goes places. I watched that today, actually, and it's as much a possession movie as it is a family drama. It is like it is scary. I wrote this on Letterboxd. It has the freakiest ever kid on a swing scene. That's very specific, I know, but kid on a swing scene. I was like, oh my god! It was. I'm into it. So I'm like all in on Jonathan Glazer now.
I've never seen Birth, and in fact, I don't. Is there even a release of that at all?
I don't know. I don't think so. I did a Criterion. I watched it on Criterion streaming.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've loved Under the Skin. Sexy Beast I saw so long ago. I think I was probably just too young and jaded. I should not
Oh,
have
it's so
watched it
good.
then. I need to
It's
rewatch it for sure.
yeah.
But yes, Under the Skin. If you have never seen it or on the fence about it, it is a very very evocative, wild movie that will make you feel things as well, just like we talked about a little while ago. It is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Totally. I actually am gonna watch that probably next. I haven't watched that since it came out.
Wow,
Yeah. So.
interesting.
And so
Uh,
when I went to go see the Zone of Interest, you know how Alamo does like the curated like pre-show
yeah.
videos and stuff, and they played all of Jonathan Glazer's music videos, and so I was like, this guy
Wow.
has done everything, music
Yeah.
videos, commercials, and like even his commercials were like, holy shit, that's a masterpiece. So like I am like fully on board the Jonathan Glazer train. I'm so glad he got nominated for best director, and obviously the film and best picture.
Yeah, this is a big deal. I'm very curious to see how it goes. It's one of the ones that I feel like is still sort of ramping up towards the show and could be one of the surprises that night.
You never know.
Uh, Sibner says there's a DVD for Birth, but nothing more. So
Mm.
that makes sense. Okay, so recent watches for me. I'm gonna go in order from most ludicrous to least ludicrous here. I because it dropped on Max, I watched Dick's the Musical, the A24 musical from last year. Did you watch it yet?
Not yet. I saw that on there and I downloaded it to my my iPad for my flight today. I did not get to it though because I had an early flight, so I took a snooze. Didn't watch Dick's the Musical at
It
5:30.
would have woke you up, that's for sure. This is a wild movie. It's funny. It is absurdist humor from corner to corner, but it works. A lot of times they could have easily just gone just over the edge of absurd, but it somehow makes sense, even with the sewer rats, which if you've not seen the commercial for it, I totally get that not making any sense. But when you watch it, man, this is a weird, funny, pretty good movie that most people will likely hate for many reasons.
Yeah, I went on to Max today and I saw the top 2 movies were Dick's the Musical and Barbie. So they're certainly they're going for it, Max.
The next one, I showed my kids Harriet the Spy. I had not seen this in years, and man, Harriet the Spy holds up. This is like Mean Girls before Mean Girls, and done in such a unique way because they're younger, and it's just so good. Like Michelle Trachtenberg is great in this.
I literally have not watched that since it came out, but I have seen who's the adult lead?
Rosie O'Donnell.
I thought it was Rosie O'Donnell. She's in all those like 90s kid adolescent movies. Yes. Wow, Harriet the Spy. That just took me back.
Also streaming on Max at the moment. And I would love, now that Paramount's kind of opening the vault for some of these, I would love to see somebody put out some of these old Nickelodeon movies like Harriet the Spy or Snow Day or the Brink, or was that no, that was Disney.
I don't remember. Well, I was really into the Nickelodeon shows like Pete and Pete. What was the other one? The Adventures of Alex Mack. You remember that one? When you said Harriet the Spy, that's the one that popped in my head right away. Salute Your Shorts. That was one, I think. Camp
Nowhere. It was a show, yeah.
Yeah. So, that was some quality programming. Really kind of shaped our, it led to all this.
It really did. Yeah, Salute Your Shorts was the show, and then I think you were about to say Camp Nowhere, which was the
that's a movie.
It is a movie, and Kino did release that a few years ago.
I own it. Yeah, I love that movie.
It's great.
Who's in that?
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd, yes.
It went out of print, and now it goes for like $85 on eBay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So next ludicrous level, I finally watched One False Move, the Criterion 4K. This was also in the imprint Neo Noir. I think it was in the second box set. It is Billy Bob Thornton's like big breakout thing because he wrote the screenplay for it, starred in it as this awkward, crazy dude from Arkansas that is just super like not even redneck or hick, but like borderline, like almost that Cajun level where he's out in the middle of nowhere and barely uses full English. But he ends up in California, and there's this random night of debauchery that happens, and there's some pretty brutal killing scenes. And then he and 2 others go on the run all the way back to Arkansas from LA. And the story itself, harrowing, really well done, directed fantastically. But then it has this super abrupt, we really should have had a little bit more of an ending. And so it was really great, and then it was nothing, just way too quickly. A little bit of a sour spot at the end, but I still recommend it. This movie is incredible. The acting is just fantastic, and it feels very, I think it came out in 90 or 91, and it feels very like late 80s neo-noir in that gross sort of very realistic feeling.
Yeah, that one's been on my list. I have that disc too. I haven't watched it yet. But that, I mean, so there was a director that came out, maybe it was on Letterboxd or something, but came out and said that was his favorite movie. I'm trying to remember who it was. But is that Bill Paxton in it too?
Bill Paxton is in that, yeah, and he's incredible.
What is he not incredible in?
It's true. That's true.
Incredible.
The last one that I will bring up, one that I saw years ago that I've basically said I've never seen it because it was so long ago, and this was basically like a real first-time watch for me. The quintessential New York movie. I finally watched Taxi Driver with my wife.
Wow.
Yeah. I'd seen this years ago, and I know, most of the scenes from it, but it's not the gravity of it. And I mean, I don't know what else to say. Just if you've never seen Taxi Driver, this is a masterpiece. You've likely been spoiled of some of the crazier stuff about it, but this is a movie that is going to, again, feel sort of gross and stick with you and just feel a bit harrowing. And unfortunately, fairly prescient. I mean, there's a lot of things about this that feel very of, 3 or 4 years ago when we were, hitting a lot of the incel manifestos in different corners of the world, and a couple people going on some sprees. And it's one that is going to be something that needs to be watched many, many times because there's so much in this movie.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really kind of amazing when you look at Martin Scorsese, isn't it? It's the year 2023. He's his latest film has 6, 7, 8, 9 nominations in the Academy Awards. you kind of forget where he comes from. I mean, he made Taxi Driver. I mean, you putting in Taxi Driver for basically the first time, that's almost like putting in Citizen Kane. I mean, that is a holy grail,
Yeah,
cornerstone film that will always be there no matter what. And he's just you lose sight of it a little bit because you see the quirky old man doing TikTok videos now. You forget, man, he had an edge to him, man. He was doing things nobody else was doing back then for the mainstream.
yes, absolutely. And I do want to say, Sibner says, honestly, Scorsese gives one of the best performances in Taxi Driver. He really does. And what's funny is I had to point out to my wife, I said, you know who that was in that last scene? She goes, no. And I told her, she goes, he's really young. I said, well, you can't be 80 forever. I mean, yeah, he was young at one point. This is a long time ago.
It's great. Yeah, I love how his early films are basically home movies. You know, he's in them. His mother's in them. His father's in. I think he's in a couple things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's got quite a few, and I think De Niro's wife is in Taxi Driver for one scene too.
Oh, really? Like
she's in a
3 or
couple.
4
Well,
wives ago.
yeah, his wife at the time, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was in that one, and then maybe the next movie.
Okay,
I don't remember.
I actually didn't know that.
I'm very much on a big Scorsese kick right now. We're considering doing a full filmography this year, and I might do Scorsese, but everybody's been doing that because of Killers.
Yeah, it's Scorsese, and I was just thinking. So, not only is Scorsese nominated this year, Jodie Foster is also nominated this year. I mean, and we all know her iconic role there. So it's just kind of funny when you revisit things like that, and they're it's time, but at the same time, these artists have been making movies for 50 plus years. It's just crazy.
Right.
Blows my mind.
50 plus years at like the height of his craft too.
Yes.
That's the crazy part. There's been many people that have argued Killers is top 5 in his career, just like Taxi Driver. And when you really start to think about that, that is a compelling and crazy argument.
Yeah, man. There's very few people that get the funding, get carte blanche basically to do what they want now. Obviously, places like Netflix and Apple have helped that because they just burn money at this point. But if they're going to burn money, I'm happy for them to burn it on him. I mean, that's okay. I'm cool with that.
I am as well. One more piece of news I wanted to jump into before we go into the actual announcements. This doesn't happen all that often, but it's actually physical media related. So it appears that Warner Brothers and Discovery sent out some random polls to some of their A-list email members to ask about catalog films that they might like to see remastered in 4K. Now, some of these make really obvious sense. Like The Conjuring is one of the biggest franchises in the world right now. Of course, people are going to pick that. But there's some really, really interesting ones on here. Blade 2 and 3, not huge titles, but if they can put those out on 4K, a lot of people are going to be very happy. Blade 2 is pretty damn good.
This is. I mean, there's not a movie on this list that you wouldn't want in 4K. The ones that stand out, obviously, are the Terminator films. We don't have the original one. The second one sucks.
Right.
Eyes Wide Shut. That would be huge. Dog Day Afternoon.
For genre fans, the biggest one on here, it's rather shocking to see the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and they list all the way from 84 to 2010. So that seems like they're claiming that they have the rights to all of them, and this means they're most likely considering that.
Was that not the case? They had to have, were they multiple studios over the course of?
Well, New Line had them for the most part, but there's been some rumors that the Craven estate had the rights to some of them. So if they are offering this in a poll it looks like they probably have all of them. Otherwise, that wouldn't be listed as an option.
That's sweet. I mean, people have been waiting for that for a long time.
Right. And now it's been almost a year and a half since I saw the 4K remaster of the first film in the theater, and it looked beautiful, by the way. So I'm very, very hopeful that this is the year for the Nightmare films. But man, the full list, if you were not watching this live, Blade 2 and 3, Caddyshack, the Conjuring films, Dances with Wolves, another one that would be just stunning. Dirty Harry, Friday. How do we not have Friday on 4K yet? The Lethal Weapon films, Nightmare on Elm Street films, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, that is in desperate need of a remaster.
1000%.
The Terminator films, Outlaw Josie Wales, Pale Rider, Bridges of Madison County, Interview with the Vampire, Eyes Wide Shut, Dog Day Afternoon, and Constantine. I feel like all of these would do very well in a really nice 4K release. And the other thing is it's Warner Brothers, and they're the ones who have been releasing these lavish editions in the UK. And here's hoping that they were looking at that as a testing ground. If these are going to sell better, maybe they start bringing more of that to the US. That would be very, very nice.
This is great news. I mean, how did you get on this A-list email newsletter though? Like, what is this?
That's a big question I had as well. I would love to see that. I anything to be able to give any sort of feedback on these titles would have been
Seriously.
nice. Well, I think that means it's about time for us to go over some announcements. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Well, let's get into it, starting with Imprint, who announced technically during the live show last week. And obviously, I'm not crazy enough to post while going through Reconnected, although I think I've done that once before, and it was really stupid. Imprint, all three of these announcements are coming on April 24th out of Australia. This first one is April 24th, the directed by John Farrow box set. And this is 5 epic films from the Academy Award-winning Australian-born writer and director John Farrow, including Commando Strike at Dawn, The Hitler Gang, Night Has 1,000 Eyes, Submarine Commando, and Botany Bay. This is a 6-disc limited edition hardbox packed with new and archival special features, including commentaries and interviews, plus a bonus disc that features the acclaimed 2021 documentary called John Farrow, Hollywood's Man in the Shadows. Personally, I don't know that I have seen any. I don't think I've seen any of these 6 films. I think I've seen one of his films before.
I have not seen any that I know of. I do know that he is Mia Farrow's father, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And Submarine Commander, did that just get a release or getting a release from Kino or something?
Most
I had it
likely.
on the show last week or something.
Probably.
I actually looked up a couple of these movies. The most interesting one actually is The Hitler Gang. It's a 1944 propaganda film, basically a biopic of Hitler that's done as like a 1930s gangster film, which sounds fascinating. The other stuff I don't know a whole lot about. I think there is a documentary though, so if you're into this, I think that might be the place to start is with that doc, because I just know nothing about it.
Yeah, I mean these releases that they're doing these docs with, it is again like quintessential releases for them. And for anybody that might recognize his name and say, what have I seen from him before? The one that I've seen, which is a nice Arrow Academy release a handful of years ago, was The Big Clock. John Farrow also directed that one.
I think he did a John Wayne movie too.
I feel like everybody did around then.
Yeah, it's true.
Next up is the next of the Tales of Adventure collection boxes. This one is the 3rd volume in this set, and this will include 10 Tall Men, The Heroes of Telemark, Sands of the Kalahari, and Lost Command. Once again, this is limited to only 1,500 copies. You got that hard box that we always do, and they've got some features on a couple of these, and then a couple that'll be a little bit bare bones. I'm sure that this has its fans. I know Sardis in the chat really loves these. Any of these up your alley?
I've never bought one of these boxes, but I watched Sands of the Kalahari, and I hate to spring this on you, but if you can pull up a picture of that poster art on that film, it has some of the best poster art that I've ever seen. It is a baboon with an axe.
Now I'm pulling it up. Yeah,
that is not in the movie at all, but it is Unbelievable artwork. Don't get me wrong. The baboons in that movie are very menacing. They're scary as shit. But that scene is not in the movie. It's basically a live or Society of the Snow in the desert. A plane goes down in the desert, and a group of people have to survive, and it's very rapey. Um, but it has a really great ending. It's almost like a Twilight Zone ending.
Interesting.
So
Yeah,
I almost want to check out this box set just for that film.
this is a wild cover. I'm trying to bring it up in full screen, but none of these want to go. So let me see if oh, this one might go. All right. Let me see if I can share this over here just for everybody in chat, because, oh man,
It's great.
that is wild.
That is a wild. Look what's going on over here.
Wow.
I mean, I almost want to buy that poster to put on the wall. I mean, it has nothing to do with the film whatsoever, but it's awesome.
I want that movie.
Right?
Oh man, that is perfect. Let me pull this back up for just a second. Sands of the Kalahari, where did you find that, or is there a reason you watched it? Any reason to seek it out?
I literally was looking for something to watch. I had nothing to watch, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna be on Reconnected. I'm gonna watch one of these movies that's in this box set, so I can talk about it. Oh, I'm gonna watch the one with the baboon with an axe on the cover.
Oh, it's the baboon rape movie. Let's watch that one. Oh man, that is a great reason. I am so glad that you sought it out. I know that a lot of people are very excited about 10 Tall Men, because it's another Burt Lancaster movie. Yeah, I mean, these Tales of Adventure box sets are pretty incredible from Imprint.
The leading men in these four movies is crazy. You got like Burt Lancaster, Kirk Douglas, Richard Harris, Anthony Quinn, and Elaine Delon. So
Yep.
it's like they are stacked movies.
Absolutely. Hilton says, I've got a big framed one sheet of Sands in my bedroom.
Amazing.
I am extremely jealous. Wow. Okay. Finally, from Imprint is the Film Focus Kim Novak box set. This is very limited years for Kim Novak, 1957 to 1959. This will include Pal, Joey, Genie, Eagles, and Middle of the Night. Two of them from 57, one from 59. And what is great is 2 out of the 3 of these worldwide first on Blu-ray. I don't know how Imprint always gets away with that, but it's really cool that they keep doing this.
They are doing amazing work. I mean, packaging aside, the movies, I mean, that they're putting out it's incredible. You know, we don't have these things. These things don't exist anywhere. You know?
Right.
So it's so cool to have them. And one of these movies is a Patty Chayefsky written film, The Middle of the Night. I mean, so I don't know if that's a first time on Blu-ray, but that's
it is.
Awesome. So, I mean, a Patty Chayefsky film is the first time on Blu-ray in a Kim Novak box set. Pretty cool.
In 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Next up, another Kino Lorber no release date title. We are getting Thunder in the East from 1952 with Alan Ladd and Deborah Kerr. Once again, not one that I know a whole lot about, but it's got an interesting poster.
It does. It almost looks like it could go into the adventure box set.
It does, yeah. Just need a slightly more jungle.
Yeah, I know nothing about this.
This one was the first one to kind of make some waves this week. April 2nd, Welgo is releasing Baby Assassins 2. This is a modern Girls with Guns film that is a sequel for Baby Assassins that came out, I believe, in 2021. And it made a pretty big splash. And a lot of people have been dying to see this one since it was announced. Came out last year overseas, has been a little difficult to see, but you can pick it up now and coming soon. Welgo kind of releasing a lot of stuff this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is the releases that we're going to go over tonight. It's such a diverse bunch of labels that are putting that stuff out. I have not seen these films. I've heard that they're more comedy than action.
Yes.
But the action that you do get is really good.
Yep.
So I actually am excited to check these out. They were not on my radar.
Yeah, a lot of the Welgo stuff is kind of difficult to see until they release it. So it's just nice that they're out there licensing these, because without them, I mean, who's going to do it? Next is The Comedy Man from 1964, being released on Blu-ray by Studio Canal in the UK. This is the Kenneth More film, and this is going to have a new 4K restoration of the film, and a couple of the archival interviews, and we've got an interview with Neil Sinyard, interview with Alvin Rakoff, and a trailer. This is one that I have missed, but supposedly is an incredible movie.
Yeah, I don't know very much about this film. I read the description and I did not know what a kitchen sink drama was, so I actually looked that up. It is a movement in the 50s and 60s in Britain, whose protagonist would be described as angry young men who are disillusioned with modern society. So it sounds very British.
Very, very British. Just that one sentence went, "Yep, that's a British film."
Yeah.
Next, oh, I forgot about this. June 11th, Unearthed is releasing Homework from 1982 as part of their Unearthed Classics line, which is so like I love that they're branching out to some of this, because when you think of Unearthed, you're not you're not
No.
thinking of a movie with Wings Hauser and Joan Collins and Lee Purcell and
It's a wild description too. I mean, this is like, there's actually a really good story about this film. So Joan Collins shot her scenes for this movie before she became like a big star in Dynasty, and it took like years to make this movie because of money and blah blah blah. And so when the film was released, they stuck her face all over the poster because she was a big star by then. So she sued the company because they added a nude double of her in the film that she was not aware of, and then they plastered her face all over the poster, and so she sued them and won. And so that's sort of the interesting story behind this one. I heard the movie stinks, but I still kind of want to see
it. Terry says 1982 delivers again. Wings. Sibner, no, this is not the first Unearthed Classics. They have done, oh gosh, I think 6 or 7, but you do not do not expect like anything like this. This is the first one that's been more what genre does this even fall under? Like teen sex comedy?
This is like,
or is it more of a drama?
No, this is like I don't know. This is like inappropriate sexual contact between an elderly woman and a high school student type of deal, and it's this scene on the ladder I read is actually in the movie, and there's a weird massage going on or something. I don't know.
First off, that's great, but second off, I love that you researched all of these. You're amazing.
I didn't want to be one of those people that come on here and like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is.
I do that every week.
You're busy though.
Next up is Kino. I still can't believe they announced this either. Kino is releasing at some point Johnny Handsome on 4K. This is the Walter Hill film starring Mickey Rourke, Ellen Barkin, Morgan Freeman, Elizabeth McGovern, Lance Henriksen, and Forrest Whitaker from 1989. And I'm shocked that this is coming to 4K. This is such a wild choice.
I have it in this set, the
Walter
Hill set. But I actually watched this movie when I saw it was coming to 4K. It's pretty damn good. I mean, this movie is Mickey Rourke is such an underrated actor in the 80s. He was and the irony of this film, the premise, have you seen it?
I watched it, I believe, right when the box set dropped, but
okay. So the premise of this film, for those that haven't seen it, is a felon is born with a deformed face, and he gets surgery to correct his face, and he becomes Mickey Rourke. The irony is that what has happened to Mickey Rourke in the last 10 years, where he's taken his handsome face and turned it basically back into a deformed face. So it's sort of an interesting perspective on that. But it's a tight 90-minute movie. It's an easy watch, very much like a dad movie. It's sort of I would call it an elevated B movie. But Mickey Rourke, he actually gives a really nuanced, sort of heartbreaking performance. Like it's pretty damn good.
I remember liking it, and I remember similar feelings about Mickey Rourke, and wishing that he had left well enough alone. Because,
No,
man, Mickey Rourke, he could have been somebody. I mean,
I
he was
love
obviously somebody, but
I love Mickey Rourke.
man,
The Pope of Greenwich Village is one of my favorite movies of all time. So good.
good stuff. Next up is Fun City Editions, which a lot of people seem to kind of forget that they exist after they are no longer with OCN, but they are still doing incredible work. Their next release is coming in May, and it is Seeing Red. This is a box set of 3 French vigilante films that are all thrillers, following the rich tradition of crime stories in Gaelic literature and cinema. The films in Seeing Red, 3 French vigilante thrillers, Shot Pattern, Street of the Damned, and Blacklist, reflect a collective paranoia about random violence in cities, as well as the international box office success of films such as Death Wish, which depicted ordinary citizens directly confronting criminals. Watch the trailer for this release. These were very difficult to see outside of France, and they look remarkable. This set looks incredible.
Yeah, I also watched that trailer, and this might be one of the most exciting titles they've put out in a long time. I think since they've gone out on their own, this might be my top release for them. And I'm totally caught up with all of their releases, even since they've left OCN. I love the work they do, and like you said, these movies, you can't find them anywhere. They're
Right.
nowhere to be found. So they're doing some good work bringing this kind of stuff to light, and this is like right up my alley.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with this. This and Handgun, I think, are the 2 best things that they've put out since
Oh,
they left.
I haven't watched that yet. Yeah, this seems very on brand for them. They've gone astray a couple of times. This seems like this for fun. This seems like Fun City, right?
Yeah. This seems harrowing. Special features on here. We've got trailers, image gallery, some archival video interviews, and then newly recorded audio commentaries by Walter Chaw and Travis Woods. And obviously, Walt Chaw's kind of a brilliant, brilliant person. Just ask Craig. He'll tell you all about it. But yeah, this looks like an incredible set and a pretty good price for what looks like 3 amazing movies.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this one.
Next up is Mean Girls, the 2004 original, coming on 4K from Paramount. I don't think there's any new features coming, but we got to point out one thing. A studio putting out limited edition packaging for a movie like Mean Girls with a pink 4K case and a slip book slip cover that looks like the burn book. This is surprisingly great coming from a studio. I don't know that I don't think we've ever seen a pink 4K case yet, but
No.
this is a remarkable change, and God, do I hope other studios take notice, because there are many people that will buy this literally just because it has a pink case.
Yeah, I actually that's the one thing that kind of stands out because it's so odd to see that. A lot of these studio catalog releases when you buy them overseas have sort of different colored cases. Like I have a few white ones, I have a gold one, I have a silver one, stuff that I've bought when I was in Europe. And I don't have a pink one though. I mean, that almost makes me want to put that on the shelf because my daughter likes to walk into my movie room and she picks out a movie and she picks out anything with a pink spine. And so this would come out every time. And for a long time, it was something totally inappropriate that she should not be pulling off the shelf. So this seems more appropriate. I forget exactly what it was, but
I love this movie too. I think this is a great choice. I think there was might have even been Mean Girls that came out in a pink Blu-ray case years ago. I had taken the Blu-ray case from that because I got rid of that because of a steelbook or something, and then I put the Scream Factory's release of The Blob in it. And man, does that movie go perfectly in that pink
that's
case.
awesome. Good call.
Next up is Shameless in the UK, which a lot of people always are unhappy with their quality, which I agree, it's not great. February 26th, which is very soon, they are releasing a Blu-ray of Ursula Andress in The Nurse from 1979. Everybody always jokes and calls her Ursula Undress. Also has Jack Palance in this one. This is supposedly a new 2K restoration of the fully uncut version of the film. They've got an interview with the director and set and costume designer on working with the Bond lovely ladies. It's shameless, so guard yourself. Don't expect a masterpiece. Not for the film, just for the quality of what you're going to be getting.
And speaking of alternate color cases, I mean, Shameless. I mean, their yellow cases is kind of the only thing they have going for them at this point.
Yep. If I move one of my shoulders, you could probably see the yellow of House with the Laughing Window screaming behind me because God, is it bright.
Yeah, I'm kind of in on it. I kind of want to see this just for Jack Palance. I'll watch anything with him in it, but this is interesting.
Yeah, this is we'll see. I bet this gets a better release from somebody eventually.
Yeah, that's usually the case. I mean, half the stuff that I have from them, I have better releases already, and I just haven't gotten rid of the stuff that I have because I kind of like the way the yellow boxes look over there on the shelf.
They're nice.
Yeah.
You can always replace other titles, like I just said with
That's
Mean
true.
Girls.
That's true.
Next one, Magnolia on March 12th is releasing Immediate Family from 2022. This says Immediate Family tracks the rise and collaborations of a group of legendary studio musicians through the 70s and onward, chronicling their illustrious partnerships and their formidable record of hit making. This is a really interesting music doc that I have been dying to see. Supposedly, this is really well made. Glad this is getting a physical release because stuff like this normally doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest into music documentaries, but this is a new release, right? 2022. Okay, yeah. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm willing to give this a shot for sure. Like I said, it's not really my cup of tea.
I get it. Sibner brought up since I said the House with the Laughing Windows, he's trying to guess who's going to get the upgraded version of that in the U.S. We kind of have confirmed that that's coming. I've talked about that before. Who do you think is going to get it in the U.S.?
House with the Laughing Window. I mean, that seems like that seems like it would be like a Severin title, wouldn't it?
My guess was either Severin or Arrow.
Okay.
I could see Arrow doing it dual in the UK and the US, possibly.
That would make sense.
But I guess it depends on who is given the opportunity for.
Mm-hmm.
Terry says, given this is from the director of The Wrecking Crew, I'm definitely in for Immediate Family. Would have caught it in theaters, but it only played one single night. Damn.
That's too bad. I would be much more interested watching something like this in a movie theater.
Ooh, Humboldt says maybe Mondo Macabro. That would be a good pick.
That would be a big release for them.
Yeah, that would be. Although it's the year of Cafe Flesh, so anything is possible. Next, speaking of Flesh, April 23rd on 4K. That was awful.
No, it's perfect. I mean,
April 23rd, Cult Epics is releasing Frivolous Lola on 4K. We knew this was coming, but we got some details and we got some art. This is the Tinto Brass film, and we are going to be getting a couple 4K from Tinto soon. This was a big Kickstarter thing that Cult Epics did. They've got a new 4K restoration of the fully uncut version of the film with HDR and everything. New audio commentary by Eugenio Ercolani and Nathaniel Thompson, both of which have been on the channel before. Check those out. New trailers for the 4K restoration of the film, and then a whole bunch of archival interviews and, Italian tracks, English subtitles, a reversible sleeve with an illustrated book with an essay by Eugenio Ercolani and Domenico Monetti. Lots of cool stuff. Tinto, have you seen any Tinto films?
I actually watched this.
What did you think?
It was my first Tinto Brass film. I actually found it charming as hell. It is, it's basically an hour and 20 minutes of the lead actress riding around on a bicycle / motorcycle or scooter, anything with two wheels, with a very free-flowing skirt.
I was about to say, what you wearing, John?
sometimes she's wearing underwear and sometimes she's not. Let's just say that the skirt should get an acting credit in this film. This thing is putting in a lot of work. There's a lot of low angles. It's very pervy, but that's kind of where the charm is. It's very Italian. It's very Italian, which I kind of really like. In Tinto Brass, he literally put himself in the movie. He's like the conductor during like a big wedding scene, and he's like basically winking at the camera the entire time. He's not taking anything seriously. So the movie's actually a lot of fun, and I would be interested in exploring the rest of his catalog. I won't be watching it on a plane, though. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's an interesting catalog, and I'll let you do the discovering on that one.
Oh, and the score is by Pino Donaggio. I mean,
It
that's
sure
pretty
is.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
John Public says, I accidentally brought that Cold Epics announcement up at work.
Yeah.
Something happened, and Instagram pulled this announcement momentarily, and I had to appeal it. There's not a single frame of nudity on this at all.
You know, sometimes the image can conjure, more vulgar images in your brain than what you're actually looking at. And those, God forbid, somebody at Instagram has a sense of humor or any taste in culture.
Any taste in something.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, I put up an interview with Joe Yannick of Yellow Veil Pictures. Check it out. Yellow Veil Pictures does not do a lot publicly because there are 3 of them involved with the company, and they are running 24/7. Joe Yannick and I have been talking for going on like 20 months, and finally just made this work, but barely got this recorded, and I'm so glad that it's out there. Hope you guys check this out. He's got some wild hair and some fun stories about the releases they've put out. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I agree. Check it out. Very good interview. And then Yellow Veil's doing great work. They're probably in my top 3 favorite partner labels for sure.
Well, now to put you on the spot, you know what we got to do. Who's the other 2? Come on.
Oh, well, Deaf Crocodile's in the chat, man. Come on. Let's see. Deaf Crocodile. I'm going to say Yellow Veil and Canadian International Pictures.
Good choices.
I love the exploitation stuff that they're putting out, the crime films and stuff, man. I'm totally into it.
The last like 3 months of their titles have been perfect. Like maybe the best stuff that they've put out.
Yeah, I'm really like, they're one of the labels where I'm like totally, and I even bought that weird snow alien movie, whatever the hell that was they put out, just because I trust them.
The Christmas Martian.
Yes, that one.
In fact, they might be in the chat tonight too. He watches quite often.
Great.
April 2nd, as a Walmart exclusive 4K Steelbook from Lionsgate, we get the 4K restoration that was just done recently of Cutthroat Island from 1995. This is the Gina Davis and Matthew Modine film that's coming. I don't know why I said Modine. But the bigger thing, a lot of people on here love Rennie Harlan. This is a really interesting Rennie Harlan flick. Fun story of how this was made and kind of killed the idea of another Fly sequel. This one is Cutthroat Island. What do you think of Cutthroat?
I haven't ever seen this movie because it notoriously bombed, I think, in the mid-90s.
Yeah, real bad.
I guess I just missed it. And I don't know that it's had a great release. I love this artwork. I love Gina Davis too. And this is a Lionsgate, right?
It is.
But is it a Walmart exclusive?
It is.
And so that's interesting to me that that Lionsgate has sort of shifted all of their exclusives to them. Have you seen the price for this yet?
Funny enough, that was what I was about to bring up. So Lionsgate got shut out by Best Buy, no longer handling anything, which if you were shopping at Best Buy for Lionsgate Steelbooks for the longest time, they were $20, $19.99 on release day. Then they raised their price. It was $22, $23 was the going rate, and that stuck until Best Buy was done with it. And now this is showing up at $35 at Walmart right now. $35.
When I actually looked it up, I saw that this one was $39.99.
Oh, okay.
Island. I mean, it's obscene. The ones that you're about to show, I think, are the ones that are $35, $36.
Yeah.
But I would love to see this movie, and I really actually love this steelbook. But
the art on this is incredible.
I'm not ready to be paying boutique prices for catalog releases with nothing new on the discs, and so I don't think I will be getting this just because just kind of an obscene price. I understand the work that has gone into the scan, blah blah blah, but $40 is a lot of money for a catalog release like this.
Especially for one that had a 4K come out from Studio Canal that I could buy from
Yes.
import, not from import, from Orbit as an import for like $23 or $24.
Yeah.
It's wild, and I love this art. I would buy the Steelbook in a heartbeat if it
Me too.
cost 50% less.
Yeah, I mean those were kind of. I mean, steelbooks are more usually more expensive, and Lionsgate sort of set that precedent where they would be $20, $22, whatever it
Right.
was, and I actually bought a good, healthy chunk of them just because they were reasonable and they were mostly 4Ks, and yeah, I'm not quite ready to lay down that kind of cash for this kind of movie though, especially a film that was sort of a bomb. I don't. It's sort of an investment I'm not really ready to take.
It's a pricey risk.
Yeah.
And John Public's right here, paying $40 to Walmart to get it in a giant box or one of those little compressed cardboard mailers that is nothing else in there, and everything that touches it is going to dent it, even a piece of paper.
Is this stuff showing up in stores? Do we know? I have no idea. I haven't been in a Walmart in so long. I mean, will this be on a shelf at Walmart, or is this going to be?
This is on some shelves. It appears that right now they're showing up on about half of the Walmarts, and of course, none of those are around me.
Yeah,
So it sucks.
yeah. It's not trending in the right direction, price wise.
I agree. Yeah, it's not. Again, I not to toot my own horn, but I did kind of raise the red flag of Best Buy leaving. Everybody's saying no big deal. I don't shop there. Less competition is going to fuck us all.
Absolutely. And even on Amazon, if you pre-order something for $40, by the time you actually ship it, they kind of go with the trends, and their prices change. If you pre-order this, you're paying $40 for it. It's not going to change.
Right.
You know.
And the other scary thing is the only reason the Amazon price goes down is to price match other retailers.
I know.
If there are no other retailers, what are they going to do?
Yeah, we're paying the price.
Well, I won't be.
Nope, that's true. Good point.
Next Lionsgate Steelbook, this is coming again April 2nd as a Walmart exclusive, is Red and Red 2 as a double feature 4K Steelbook. I actually really like both these movies. I'm glad this is coming out. It's a little rich for my blood, but it looks like a fun release.
Yeah, this is a lot more reasonable. I think this is the same price, but you get two movies, so I'm okay with that. I own both of these on Blu-ray. I haven't actually watched them yet. I've always wanted to, and I've heard they're actually decent. And so I'll have to watch those before I, pitch in for this. I mean, it's cool artwork though. Really cool artwork.
The first one is much better, but both of these are pretty shockingly fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a try.
Next up, yet another Lionsgate, April 2nd, Walmart exclusive 4K Steelbook for Rambo First Blood. And again, this is kind of funny and, should point out, this is literally the exact same Rambo Steelbook that they had in that pack that they had in the giant big metal pack thing with just a slipcover on it. So it's the exact same thing, just pulled out.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is obviously the best one. So I did not shell out for the big 10 whatever, because I don't, I really loved before Stallone became an action, superhero basically in the mid 80s. So I appreciate this one. I actually might think about getting this. I don't know that I own First Blood on 4K, so this might be actually something I shell out for.
Well, heads up, they were supposedly going to be doing a new restoration, and there's no news that this is that new restoration. Considering it's a repack of the Steelbook, I bet it's a repack of the disc. And if you're gonna regret spending on that when there's a new 4K in another year, you might want to hold out.
I've waited this long. I can wait a little longer.
Chris Silvestri is commenting in here and trying to text his wife in my chat.
Oh man, that could be dangerous, dude.
Oh yes. Next, March 5th on Blu-ray from Universal, they are putting out Suits, the complete series, of which I've never even seen a scene from. This is like the most famous TV show that I know nothing about, and I don't know how. Suits, did you watch it?
My wife is a big Anglophile, and so all I know is that this has Meghan Markle in it. Okay.
That's all I know too.
That's all I know. My wife actually went to the royal wedding 4 or 5 years ago. She hates them now, but she actually went to, like, stand with the crazy people and like wave flags and stuff. So that's the only thing I know about this show. So good luck to those that enjoy this kind of thing, but I know nothing about it.
There is plenty of special features. Got a bunch of commentaries, some gags, deleted scenes, all kinds of stuff. Again, know nothing about it. Never seen it. But oh man, did Kino Lorber make some waves by announcing this? April 23rd on 4K. Kino is releasing Nostalgia from Tarkovsky on both a standalone 4K and Blu-ray release. This is going to have an audio commentary by Daniel Bird on it, with some archival interviews with the DP Giuseppe Lanci, and then we got a re-release trailer. But this is the first Tarkovsky on 4K. This is a pretty big deal.
I was gonna ask you if that's the first one. That's a huge deal. I mean, Tarkovsky's a bit of a blind spot for me. I think I watched Andrei Rublev or Solaris in film school, and I was not in the right frame of mind for that as a 21, 22-year-old.
Right.
And I've never seen this film, but bravo to Kino. I mean, they just keep pumping them out, man. They got the cult stuff. They've got Tarkovsky now. I mean, they are, they're doing movies that would work on Criterion, movies that would work on Vinegar Syndrome, movies that work on Severin. I mean, they're kind of unbelievable, and they're with their sales, they become so reasonable. They're kind of the polar opposite of paying $40 for Cutthroat Island,
Right.
They don't, they've gone to the slipcover trend, but it's really all about the movie for them, which I really kind of respect at this point. So this is really cool.
So yes, this is the first Tarkovsky 4K, and I believe there's one other Tarkovsky film that's had a 4K remaster. I would not be surprised if that one is coming soon, maybe from Kino. If it's not Kino, it'll likely be Criterion. But some of the bigger ones that Criterion has put out, I don't know if those are getting remasters anytime soon. It would not surprise me. It's kind of about that time and would not be shocking in the least bit. So keep an eye out. This is probably the first sands falling in the hourglass of what is really going to be hitting hard for a lot of Tarkovsky stuff.
Great. Can't wait.
Next up is Dogman from Altitude Films in the UK. This is coming on March 11th on Blu-ray. This is the next Luc Besson film, who is, of course, the mastermind behind Leon and a bunch of other great movies. But this stars Caleb Landry Jones, who I've honestly kind of loved in every single thing he's acted in. I've heard this is really great, kind of a return to form for Besson. Dying to see this. What do you think of Luc Besson?
Well, that's a complicated question.
He's got a lot of ups and downs.
I will watch anything with Caleb Landry Jones, even if they're made by Luc Besson.
Yeah.
This looks kind of awesome. I didn't know this existed. It's a 2023 release. It's not available anywhere. I don't even know if it got a theatrical. So I am pumped for this. Like, when is this coming out? Did we have a date or no?
Yes,
March
we
11th?
do. March 11th.
Yeah, this looks awesome. And like I said, he's great in literally everything.
I agree. He was, God, was the Last Exorcist the Last Exorcism the first thing I saw him in? Maybe. He was great in Get Out.
Mm-hmm. Antiviral with Brandon Cronenberg's first movie. He's in that.
So good.
He's in an Australian movie that came out last year, 2 years ago. I forget what it's called, but he plays a mass shooter. It's a very dark film, but he's obviously brilliant. True story. But he's also in one of the Safdie films as one of the leads. One of their early films, Heaven Knows What, I think it's called.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Really good. Really good.
Some questions on if this is a remake or related to the Garone Dogman in any way. I have no idea. I did not look into that.
No clue.
Next up is another release of The Raid. Play On Pictures in Germany is releasing The Raid Ultimate Edition on 4K and Blu-ray on April 24th. A lot of the same making of featurettes and interviews that we had previously. Unfortunately, this does not look to be English friendly, but it looks to be a really solid release of this movie.
I haven't picked up the most recent 4K that just came out.
Me neither.
I don't think I'll be getting this one if it's got English friendly issues, but I love that box.
Yeah, it's really great art. I've heard through the grapevine. This is not a confirmation. Don't say I said this or anything. The rumor is this could be getting another boutique release in the next few
Yeah.
months. So I would love. I mean, considering we only have a release in the States of the 4K and now Germany, that means the UK and Australia is wide open. We could get something great from Umbrella for this. Could you imagine a second site release of the Raid on 4K?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that this is one of those movies that's going to have like a dozen releases. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
the 4K scan's done. It's gonna be in every region's going to have their version of it because it's such a it feels like it's a collector's movie. It's like one of those films that it feels underground, but it's sort of mainstream. Like
yep.
even people that aren't into film like we're into film know the Raid, and so when they want to feel subversive and like cool, make a cool suggestion, they'll always oh, have you seen the Raid? Yeah. So I think we'll be seeing this one a lot.
I think Key Ray knows something here. So yeah, I bet we see another announcement here soon.
Yeah.
Next up, I am working on, and so is Stan, who's currently in the chat. Stan, thank you for everything you do. We are working on the next issue of the Physical Media Advocate, and actually on Antonio, who's normally in the chat. He's going to be helping us from this point forward as well. And the big thing, we're trying to spread the letter to the editor column. We've already got 3 or 4 for this month, but we are looking to have a bunch more. If you've got something that you want featured, some funny story, you want something for us to react to, you want to ask a question, see if everybody else deals with something the same way you do, or just do something funny, send me a message on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. Send me an email. I've got that listed everywhere. It's in the description below. I will print it. If you want to be anonymous because it's something scathing, that's totally fine. If you want to complain about the Kino release of the Boogans that supposedly looks awful, that's great. Let's do it. I think this is going to be really fun. And a couple of letters for this month are pretty incredible already.
I don't know how you have time to run a special features company, run this channel, do your day job, and literally put out a friggin' magazine every month. Like, dude, it's unbelievable. It's a real magazine.
Yes.
Yeah, you're doing a hell of a job, man. It's great. We're all very lucky to be in your ring here.
I'm literally feeling myself blush. Thank you. That's incredible. I'm always red, so you can't tell. Next up, one that's really exciting. Kino is releasing on April 30th as part of their Kino Classics line, the Vitagraph comedies. We don't have all the titles yet, but this is going to be a 3-disc collection. So you can guarantee this is going to be like one of their the early Women of Cinema set that they put out, or the History of Black Film, a couple of those sets that they did. It's going to be something like that, and it's going to have a whole lot of love in this. This is going to have a lot of the early comedies that were long before, the Buster Keatons and all that a lot of us know that were mainstream. All help from the Library of Congress. This looks like an amazing release.
Yeah, man. Anytime you can, you look at the packaging, you see a little Library of Congress stamp on there. That is a pretty big deal. Yeah. This is Kino. I mean, this is the Kino umbrella. They're just constantly killing. I mean, Vitagraph was a film production company in the early 20th century out of Brooklyn that was eventually bought by Warner Brothers, I think, in the 20s. And so they have like a 30-year history of like early, pioneer film. So this will be really interesting to see what's in here. This is amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait. The collections that they do on these are always just so well put together. Yeah, very, very excited for this. Next one is April 5th. We're getting a 4K release somehow of Motley Crue The End live in Los Angeles. And shockingly, first off, it wasn't their final show, of course. It wasn't. I think they even toured fully after this show. But this is Motley Crue in 2015 playing a long set of a lot of their biggest hits. And they've got some extended interviews and some behind the scenes on some of the features that they did, like the flaming bass and Tommy's drum rig. This is just wild that this is getting a 4K release.
Yeah, no offense to any fans in the chat, but I'd rather stick pins in my eyes than watch this.
So one of the reasons that I wanted to share this, though, is buried in this announcement had additional 4K titles to be released later this year, include Black Sabbath: The End, Eric Clapton: Slow Hand at 70 live at the Royal Albert Hall, and Steven Wilson: Home Invasion in concert at the Royal Albert Hall.
Interesting. Who's putting this out, Ryan?
This is Mercury Studios in the UK.
Interesting. Okay. I guess, I mean, there's obviously people want this kind of stuff. So the fact that they're putting it on 4K is kind of amazing. Is it going to have like an Atmos track or something like that? I feel like
I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah. That might actually be kind of cool.
For a different band. Yeah. I completely agree.
Exactly.
Next, March 5th, Universal is releasing The Prince of Egypt, the musical, which I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't know there was a Prince of Egypt, the musical. This is coming out on Blu-ray on that day. And yeah, I mean, the original movie was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know that I even saw the original movie. So this is a little out of my comfort zone. I mean, maybe my daughter would like it. Maybe, I don't know. So
I watched this originally when I was buried deep in religion, and then even coming out after religion, I was shocked that it was still like a fairly well told story.
Who is Prince of Egypt? It's not Disney, right?
It's DreamWorks, I believe.
DreamWorks. Okay, yeah, I that kind of I missed that.
It's right there. Yeah, DreamWorks.
Yep, there you go. There you go. I wish I could help you out here. I got nothing for the Prince of Egypt, the musical.
That's totally acceptable for that title. April 23rd, Milestone Films is releasing Household of Saints, which I've not seen before, but man, this sounds great and has some incredible reviews. This says Nancy Savoca's star-studded indie gem Household Saints is a chronicle of a spirited Italian-American New York family. So basically, this was made for John. That perfectly balances humor, tragedy, and pathos. Joseph Santangelo, there's 9 different ways you can pronounce that last name, is a butcher with a wicked sense of humor who wins his wife, Catherine, played by Tracy Ullman, in a pinochle game over the protests of his mother, who's played by Judith Molina, who talks to ghosts and makes deals with saints. Joseph marries Catherine. When the old lady dies, her spirit is channeled into her grandfather, Teresa, who yearns to serve God. Granddaughter, Teresa, who yearns to serve God. I thought grandfather Teresa sounded weird. Perfectly embodying a modern-day Bernadette, Lily Taylor imbues Teresa with a mix of dedicated innocence and naivete. This is executive produced by Jonathan Demme. We've got some extras on this, including some student films from Nancy Savoca. That's pretty damn cool. And then a 2023 making of doc, and then archival interviews with the cast and Jonathan Demme. Pretty interesting release.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for these sort of, Italian American New York City period things anyway. But bravo to Milestone Cinematique. I don't know what that is, but that's kind of the cool thing about what we are into. Like, even if I don't buy this disc, it's on my radar now. I eventually might get it, and it's a film I'd never heard of, but it seems like it's right up my alley. Like you said, but I'd never heard of it. It's produced by Jonathan Demme. I'm not familiar with the director's work, but this is kind of amazing. It's got D'Onofrio in it. It's good. This is probably great.
It probably is. It seems like it's got a really great reputation and history, and at this point, it's 31 years old. That's great just to resurrect it.
Yeah, Milestone Films. I mean, who are these labels?
This is a partner label of Kino, actually.
Really? Okay. Well, there you go. Well, I guess maybe I'll wait for a sale. It'll be $7 before you know it.
Speaking of Kino, next one, April 23rd, we are getting the next Forbidden Fruit, the golden age of the exploitation picture that they have been doing with Something Weird for a few years now. This is number 15 in that line, and this is The Road to Ruin from 1934. It also has the 1928 silent version of this, but on top of that, it's got an audio commentary for both versions of the films. Again, just love the stuff that Kino does for this. It's also got a gallery of exploitation trailers. I was shocked that this came out. I thought that they were completely done with this line, considering something weird is doing their own sort of thing, trying to close the doors, and obviously they're still helping some other people with releases. But I thought they were done with this for a while at least, and here we go. This is number 15. This is rad.
Yeah, it's like I love these like educational vintage films that they put out. It's like it's so bizarre. And it's like Kino is just, I mean, this is falling under the same umbrella as the label that's putting out Kindergarten Cop on 4K.
Nostalgia from Tarkovsky.
And Tarkovsky. I mean, they run the gamut tonight. So bravo to them. This looks unbelievable.
Yeah, it's Kino just doing incredible work.
Yeah.
Okay, so in with the good and out with the bad. This was something that came across my feed earlier and just wanted to share. Crunchyroll, who is somebody that's a huge name in anime, so is Funimation. It appears that they are shutting down the Funimation streaming service, but then deleting everybody's purchased copies of stuff, while they also hike their own prices. So this is just a reminder. Physical media is the only thing that you can own and own and own in this. If you are buying digital, they can take it away from you at any moment.
Yeah, I mean, not that we needed another reason to beat our chest, and we're preaching to the choir here, obviously, but this is so scummy. I mean, this is just
Right.
like so like gross, and like to a community that is, you know, obviously invested into that kind of, you know, anime. It's really, it's kind of depressing. It's like it's you know, we don't, not that we need any more rallying cries or anything, but this sucks.
For those that don't know, the odd thing about this is that one of the studios that we, especially I praise quite often, Sony, who does some great restoration work, has been huge in film for more than 100 years. I mean, this year is literally their 100th anniversary. They are technically the ones behind this. They sort of forced Crunchyroll and Funimation to be merged, and they are the studio that's controlling all of this at the moment. So if you've got an issue with the anime side, Sony is kind of the one to blame here. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, just not that I'm breaking news to anybody here, but like, you know, you're not actually buying this stuff, you're leasing it if you're buying
Right.
it digitally. So I mean, if you're okay with that, then that's cool. But this is, just know that these people don't really have your best interests in mind and don't care that you've bought something.
So I, just like you, I'm sure I have a quite large digital collection, mostly from stuff that I bought physical and it came with the digital. And when you're somebody like John, who's literally traveling all over the country for most of the year, that comes in very handy to be able to access a lot of your films from afar. Accessibility is great. Streaming is fantastic in a lot of situations, and I really hope people have the ability to take advantage of watching those. However, if it's something you want to own, spending $20 on a digital version is basically donating to a wishing well. You're not going to get anything in the long run for that money. And most likely, it's sort of, buried in that fine print that they can remove it at any point in time, so you have no recourse against it. But even just using the word buy or purchase on any of these screens is sort of scummy, because they know that it's not going to be there in perpetuity.
I totally agree. And I mean, like you said, the access that we have, you know, the ability, I talked at the top of the stream, I watched the two Jonathan Demme movies, Jonathan Glazer movies on an airplane. You know, I downloaded them to my iPad and watched them on a flight. You know, that was, you know, not always possible. And it's not, I wouldn't have the time to watch as many films as I do, you know, over the course of you know, my life, because, you know, we have the streaming, you know, system in place. I mean, I love owning the stuff, but you got to kind of draw the line with the definition of ownership. I mean, it's kind of you can't even call it a library, a digital library, because it's it's not something that's going to be there forever. I mean, this stuff is not necessarily going to be here forever, but it's going to be here for the rest of my life, probably. So that kind of makes me sleep well at night, knowing that. I'd have high anxiety if all this stuff was just on a server somewhere.
Yeah, fully agree. This is rough, and especially for anime fans. Like I'm not super deep into anime. I've literally only seen a couple titles ever. But anime is especially rife with problems for physical media because there will be some, I don't know, like 15 episode show that will come out, and you will only be able to buy 5 episodes at a time, and each of the 5 episodes will cost like $90. It's exorbitant for some of the anime releases because they know that, licensing stuff out of Japan is very expensive, but people will pay it. So we'll charge more and it'll go over like gangbusters. We'll be rich. Something has to give here, and it's really messy when it comes down to they just want you to have to pay every single time you watch something and literally never own something.
And people that love anime, like really love anime, like it's like a lifestyle. And so, people wake up in the morning and their entire library is gone. It's really sad.
Well said. Nothing else to say to that. It's this one's rough. 88 Films, who announces things in a very odd way. Their announcement today was just this picture, and here's what we have coming in April from them. In the UK, they are releasing the Inspector Wears Skirts 3, the Inspector Wears Skirts 4, Beast in the Cellar on DVD, Gator. This is the Burt film, of course, that's coming on Blu-ray. It's coming out as part of the 88 Vault collection on Blu-ray. Should say that as well. They're putting that out on DVD too. Vertical Limit is getting a UK Blu-ray. Evolution coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. Fearless Hyena 2, that's coming out on UK Blu-ray. Then we got Shockwaves coming out from the 88 Vault collection in the UK as well. And then in the US, we are getting the Inspector Wears Skirts 3, the Inspector Wears Skirts 4, and then the previously announced Project A collection in 4K and Blu-ray. Big month for 88 Films, and unfortunately, they miss a lot of their release dates. So be prepared for some of these to not come out when they say they are.
Yeah, it's hard to get really excited about the way that they did this. This is like, it's just a little much, like in one screenshot here. Although I remember liking Evolution back when I was a younger person.
Evolution was fun.
Yeah, I think it's an Ivan Reitman film, actually, right?
It is.
I think it's an alien movie, and I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but I think the way they kill the aliens is with Head and Shoulders shampoo. Is that the thing? I think
that sounds right. It's been a long time.
I don't know why that's in my brain, but I think that's what happens. But yeah, I would actually be interested in Evolution, revisiting that.
To make it known how long ago I saw this, I saw it on release in a drive-in when it first came out.
That's kind of awesome.
That was a long time ago. Next up, Kino Lorber. Speaking of weird films that they're putting out, they are putting out The Invisible Fight from 2023, and the description of this movie: USSR China border, 1973. Young soldier Raphael is on guard duty when the border falls under attack from flying Chinese kung fu warriors, leaving him as the sole survivor. Utterly fascinated by the long-haired martial artist who easily dispatched his fellow guards, all while blasting forbidden Black Sabbath music from their portable radio, Raphael is struck by a revelation. He too wants to become a kung fu warrior. Looking for mentorship but with limited options, Faith leads Raphael to seek martial arts teachers at the most unlikely of places, the local Eastern Orthodox monastery, where the black-clad monks begin his training. With the skeptical mother, a rival monk, and a budding love interest pulling him in different directions, Raphael finds that his journey to unlock the greatest martial art of all, the almighty power of humility, is long, winding, and full of kick-ass adventures.
Wow. Okay, I need to see this before I finalize my top films of 2023. I must see this.
I don't even know what to feel or be excited about after that. This sounds really fun.
I mean, yeah, between that description and this box art, I am feeling this movie. This seems actually kind of awesome.
It seems to be that it played at Fantastic Fest and Sitges in Spain. Um, yeah, looks and sounds very, very interesting. David says,
Look at that pull quote.
not a lot of reviews of this in English. The quote says, an explosive mix of kung fu, heavy metal, and Orthodox Christianity. All right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Spaghetti, I don't know what this is, but I'm so sold on this mess.
Oh, yeah, I'm here for it.
Next up is the Iron Claw from 2023. A24 and Lionsgate are releasing this on Blu-ray on March 26th. What are the odds this gets a fancy A24 4K, you think?
I don't know, man. I'm a sucker. I end up buying the stuff on release day. I did it with the holdovers. Probably have to double dip for that at some point. The 4K is already out overseas. So I don't know. This movie was great. I'm gonna eventually get it, I'm sure. Yeah, this is actually one of the I think snubs for all of the award season stuff, and it could have gotten 1,000 different things. It's a very good movie. It's obviously heartbreaking. It's almost so sad that it doesn't seem real. The film's like, oh, this is ridiculous, but you look it up, it's actually what happens.
Worse.
The family is worse, and so it's but it's actually the first half of the film was very fun. The first half of the film almost feels like Dazed and Confused.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and then the second half is like Final Destination, because it's just like they just death is coming for everybody in that family.
The second half is like tragedy inception.
But yes, everyone should check this out. This was great.
Ronnie says, can't wait to finally see this. Maura Tierney's one of my favorites. This literally may be Maura Tierney's best performance she's ever given.
The whole cast does a great job.
Yeah.
Who plays the father? Blanking out right now. He is it was awesome performance.
I never remember his name. He is the guy that was in Mindhunter.
Mindhunter. He's the partner in Mindhunter.
I'm sure somebody knows his name, and we'll hear it in the next 5 seconds in chat. Sibner says, not just a fancy 4K, but different editions with each of the brothers on it. Oh, God.
Holt McElhaney.
That's his name. That's why I never remember that last name, because it's such an interesting last name.
He's great. And obviously,
everybody talked about Zac Efron. He might be my favorite part of this whole movie.
You're right. His is the performance that has stayed with me since I've seen it. Although Zac Efron's hair has stayed with me much longer than that.
Ronnie, holy McElhaney.
He's still talking about the Orthodox Christianity kung fu movie.
Yeah. Dustin says Dazed and Confused meets Final Destination equals Sold. Nice. Maura Tierney's best performance is in Scotland, PA. I've heard that, and I've not seen that one, so I will digress on that. I guess we end on a pitch. It's an interesting time to sign up for the Patreon. I've got a lot going on and a lot of stuff about to happen. So if you were ever on the edge of the gates or the fence, what have you, and you were thinking about signing up, this might be the time. Over the next couple weeks, I've got videos coming out that I've already been doing some filming for. I'm about to do my limited edition quarterly merch and handwritten notes to be sent out to all kinds of people on the list. The zine's about to drop, and if you are on that certain level, you get it for free. There's a lot of stuff about to happen. So if you were ever considering that, check that out in the description below.
Join the Patreon, everybody. Join the Patreon. Join the Discord. It's well worth your money, and your money's going to the hardest working man in the business. So sign up.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot. I hope it's worth your time. The Discord is literally my favorite thing, maybe in the entire world.
It's great. It's great. It's worth every cent.
Next week, just in case you forgot, we've got The Marvels on 4K, Columbia Classics Volume 4, which doesn't seem to be dropping by release date on Amazon like a lot of people had hoped for. However, Deep Discount has it for, I think it's like $145 is the cheapest to get it right now, I think. I definitely am needing to get that one eventually, but I'm hoping I'm hoping this goes as low as part 3 did.
Yeah,
um,
I missed the first one, so I just gave up on ever collecting the Columbia Classic sets, which is probably a mistake because there's some films on there that haven't gotten single releases yet. But I'm
that
holding out for Taxi Driver, right? The first
that
one,
that well, no, Taxi Driver's in the second one. I think
second one.
that's
Okay,
what I just watched is the 4K from that, and supposedly that's getting a standalone release later this year potentially.
good. I hope so. You figure eventually the stuff will get their individual releases, but I have not. The bulky packaging is tough these days.
That's very, very true.
Yeah.
Planet Earth 3 coming on 4K, the BBC release. Footloose 4K. Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny finally coming to high definition. I did this get delayed? The Universal Classic Monsters set? That's interesting that showed up there. Okay. Marvel's 4K Steelbook, Hunger Games, the newest one, is coming out this next week. Fear is the Key from Arrow. Willy's Wonderland 4K from Scream Factory, including a Steelbook option. Romer's Tales of the Four Seasons from Criterion. Priscilla this week. The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 1 is coming out. Goodbye and Amen from Radiance. Twilight. This is coming from Arbalos. I would highly recommend checking them out. Let's Dance from, I believe that's coming from the studio, MGM, I think. The Shaolin Plot from Arrow. Gomer Pyle, USMC, the complete series. Harriet 4K. Ticket to Paradise 4K. A Creature Was Stirring. I think that's coming from Welgo. And Godard Cinema is coming next week as well. I am interested in a few of these. What about you? Anything sticking out to you?
Priscilla, but it's the same problem with Iron Claw. Like, are we going to get a 4K eventually? Like, I hate playing that game. It's just like
Right.
so frustrating. I want to support the film. I want to support the release, but are we going to get a 4K in 6 months? Is A24 going to do their thing? I actually have that sitting in a cart at Orbit right now, and I'm like, I don't know. I love the movie, and it would look great in 4K. Maybe I need to kind of change my philosophy on all of this. Do I need to own everything in 4K? Am I going to be happy with the Blu-ray for a film like that? Yes. But the OCD in me kind of just wants to own it on the best version. And so it drives me kind of nuts. But I need to stop beating myself up. In 2024, I'm trying to get less frustrated with stuff like that.
I get it. I don't want to spill everything yet, but I have a video coming out soon where it's a pre-recorded video. I haven't done one of these in a long time. That I'm trying to show some things to help some people in this this world of appreciating home video and collecting, but also less on the collecting side, more so on doing it for the best film capabilities. And when it comes to 4K versus Blu-ray, a lot of people are still super skeptical. And I think I have a couple ways to help you make your decision. So we're going to be talking about that soon on the channel. Hope that helps when it comes out, because I get it. It's a big thing, especially frustrating when the studio says, here's the Blu-ray, and 6 months later, here's the 4K.
Yeah, I just hate the dance. I hate having to think like that. I want to own the movie and be done with it forever. I want it to be there on the shelf. I don't want to have anxiety about the next great release of it. I kind of want that to be, once I buy it, I bought it. I want it to be done. But that's the way it goes. That's the hobby in 2024.
Exactly. And speaking of 2024, we are almost halfway through this decade. And the best way to get to our discussion tonight is to highlight that John and myself, especially John, tries to stay on top of as much modern film as possible. I wish I could watch nearly as much as you do, but it has been a really, really interesting decade of film so far. If you could sum up some themes or ideas to define this decade so far, what would be some of the first things that you go to?
I think obviously I'm really into award season, probably much more so than most people in the hobby. And I probably watch more contemporary films than most people in the hobby, just because our interests tend to go to the older stuff, the stuff we grew up with, or the 80s stuff, or the exploitation stuff, or genre stuff. So it's really exciting thinking about where we're going in the future. And I mean, we're living in great times. I mean, COVID and what happened to movie theaters was a kind of a scary time. But seeing what happened this last year, I know it's 2 movies, and I know it's a ridiculous campaign. But what happened this last summer was pretty special with Oppenheimer and Barbie, and seeing people go to the theaters, be excited to go to the theaters, and having it be part of the discussion, everywhere, part of
Right.
the zeitgeist, and that's a big deal to have a movie talked about not on streaming, which has a very small window of excitement. It may be the most trending thing on the internet for a week, but that kind of disappears. The fact that we're still talking about Barbie and things like Oppenheimer, and last year Everything Everywhere All at Once, a movie that is just so obscenely out of the mainstream's kind of usual tastes. For that to win Best Picture, even Oppenheimer, it's a 3+ hour biopic with some pretty experimental things going on within the production. It's an exciting time, and this obviously the big movies are one thing, but I'm really excited about the young filmmakers coming up doing mostly genre stuff. People like Robert Eggers and people like Ari Aster and the Safdie brothers. Well, the Safdie brothers have split, so Benny Safdie and what's the other brother's name? The other guy,
Mr. Safdie. Yeah, Josh.
And Brandon Cronenberg and Rose Glass. I'm excited for her new movie coming out. It's kind of an exciting time for the cinema in a whole. I think it's in a really healthy place, honestly. I mean, there's doom and gloom for a long time. I really feel like movies in the contemporary landscape are really in a good place.
I mean, shockingly would agree. There is let's just be frank. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there about a lot of this. Every time we get to like the interview when you're discussing something with a studio or with a theater or anything, it's just, so how are you going to adapt, or how are we going to get to this newfound world where you're having to deal with people coming in not expecting the world from you. Your prices are so high, you're just going down the drain. You're going out of business, and it's so interesting to see a rise in really what is probably going to be the thing that will keep theaters going, which is the experience. Things like Barbenheimer, things like Alamo Drafthouse being so successful because it is a place that you can go to respect cinema, where they don't allow all of the the cell phones and the talking and all of the bullshit that you have to fight during terrible screenings. So tonight we are discussing to keep the love for modern film alive. So far in the decade, our 10 favorite films. Again, favorite, not best. There are quite a few films that would be on this list that are not on my list, but really just the films that have stuck with us. And I'm really trying not to be recency biased about many. I don't know how many you got from 2023. I think I only got 2, but it's been a really, really interesting decade because it's mostly been in a pandemic, which changes a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true. It's 2020 is always going to kind of be one of those years that it's sort of going to be a bookmark, kind of year, the year that was lost. It's but it also it's there's been a lot of exciting things. I think I have 2 2023 releases, so I kind of spread the love. My list it's kind of an interesting exercise going back and looking, and thank God for Letterboxd for being able to
Agreed.
go back and look. I mean, what a great tool. It's the movies that I maybe had in my top 10 films of those years, 2020, 21, 20, even 22 last year. Some of those movies aren't going to be on this list because they haven't stayed with me as much as some of these other films. Like just like anything, even it's a movie that has kind of embedded itself in me, and time is a good test of how good a movie actually is. And so it's stuff that I've watched the most. It's stuff that I think about most often. And it's filmmakers that I'm most excited for. And I think it's a pretty good, well-rounded list.
I agree. That's exactly how I feel. I'm there's a couple I'm shocked that didn't make their way into my top 10 that I really thought would. And looking back again, when I start talking about tools that are useful for people in this hobby, Letterboxd is going to be nearly the top of that list. Um, some of these that I looked back on, I went, why did I rate that so low? I've watched this movie like 3 times in the last 4 years. I
Mm-hmm.
love that movie. And I also found some that I rated high and I went, man, that had no lasting power with me whatsoever. There's a lot of reflecting over these last
Yeah,
4 years.
same. Totally the same. I actually, not that anyone looks at my list on Letterboxd, I was like, I gotta make a little adjustment here. This is wrong. I don't feel this way anymore.
Yeah,
um,
I definitely felt that. Like Underwater, I had rated fairly lowly, and that was not the right way to say that. Fairly low. And looking back, I'm like, I kind of love Underwater. That
oh
movie's
yeah,
kind of incredible.
that movie slaps. That's a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Let's we're gonna have lots of tangents tonight, I'm sure. Lots of discussions about all 10 of these. I'm very curious to see how many crossover because I know that you watch many, many more movies than me. I think we're gonna have at most maybe 2 or 3 the same. So let's hear your number 10, sir.
All right. Well, it wouldn't be a John Demarsico appearance on your channel without me bringing up this film. My number 10 film is 2022's Elvis by Baz Luhrmann. I like this movie so much more than everybody else. I feel like I'm on an island all alone on Elvis Island, which is kind of
With
terrible.
Elvis, maybe. Still alive.
I just, Baz Luhrmann. There are not many auteurs out there whose work is immediately recognizable, just visually by looking at it. Wes Anderson's one of them, obviously. I think Baz Luhrmann's right there, and it's such a stylistically sound movie, and it's baroque in its grandness, and it's the subject matter with Elvis and his life and who he was. It just lends itself to Baz Luhrmann's style so much. Thank you, Craig. I really appreciate that. But I would say honestly, the movie that I've revisited the most on my top 10 list is probably Elvis. I've watched the movie a ton.
Wow.
I think it's just spectacle filmmaking, and it's ridiculous and it's wonderful, and it's great. My number 10.
I still have yet to see this. I apologize. It's one that is on my list. I don't hate all Boz films. It's just most of them. I get it, and I do appreciate like the auteur theory behind this one director because again, literally you can show a frame from any of his movies and go, oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Not even a question about it. It's a really great thing to be able to do that, obviously, but I don't know. First off, the Elvis story really isn't compelling to me. That's the biggest thing.
He was the star among stars, and you think Taylor Swift is big right now? I mean, Elvis was the king. I mean, he was the king before social media, before tabloids. He was everywhere. He was in movies. I mean, the movie does a funny thing where the performances obviously are incredible and the way they're shot and cut and edited and are great, but it's it leaves you on a final image of him that is kind of actually quite sad, and I think the movie couldn't have ended in any other way because of the way that his life ended, I guess, and his personal life.
Yeah.
So it's a hopeful. It runs the gamut. This movie kind of just vibes with me. It really does.
That's good. I'm glad you love it. I will never
Yeah.
take that away from somebody.
And it actually inspired one of the one of my most popular moments from during the baseball season. I took one of Baz Luhrmann's 8-box split screens where they're flying all over the screen, and I did that during a Mets baseball game, and the world didn't know what hit them.
If you want to see that example, we showed that in the interview with John the first time that he had his own video on the channel. So go check it out. It's the amount of things that you've taken inspiration from is incredible. But even that one, like, sure, I've not seen the movie, but the artistry behind it is missing from sports altogether.
Yeah, I really just I mean, how could it not sort of this hobby and this interest and this lifestyle? I mean, it's sort of implanted on me, you know, in my day to day, and that includes what I do for a living. So I can't wait to see what comes out of me next. But I'm not even sure what it's going to be. You just never know.
I appreciate your passion for that, and now I feel kind of embarrassed because I just looked at my list and holy hell, there's a lot of A24 on my list.
Dude, same. I mean, it's been a big few years for them.
It has. It has. Number 10, I've got my first one from them, which I've not really talked about all that much on this channel, and that is with how much I love 2021's Come On, Come On. This movie is just wholesome and meaningful and beautiful to look at, and just artistically directed by Mike Mills in a way that you don't expect for Joaquin Phoenix and just this little kid to randomly have this connection driving across country. And this is one that has stuck with me, and obviously a big part of that, especially for somebody like John and myself who've got young kids, and this hits home in so many scenes of just how quirky kids can be, how odd their dialogue is because they feel like it, how they see things differently, how it means different things to them. And this movie is just, it's saccharine, but not so much that you get an awful toothache. It's that perfect homey vibe of I could just totally snuggle up and watch this movie at any point in my life.
Yeah, it's a very cozy, but it's not like it's not without its awkwardness, and like it's got some moments in there that aren't exactly warm. But you brought up being a dad, and I actually am one of those suckers that goes to A24's website and like buys like the merch sometimes. And so I bought the book that he reads, Joaquin Phoenix reads, and I bought it for my daughter.
Nice.
And it is just like the most beautiful, like little children's book I've ever read. I actually don't even read it to her anymore because I like bawl when I read it. Like it's like so gorgeous and beautiful. And I think he does it in voiceover in the film, and it's so damn good. But yes, good choice. I also really like that movie.
I adore Joaquin Phoenix for the most part, and man, does he deliver a pretty good straight man performance here.
He doesn't miss often.
That's very true. All right, what's your number 9, sir?
Number 9, another movie that people did not love from 2022. I'm going with Babylon.
Love this movie.
Damien Chazelle's Babylon. This movie got so much flack, and is still getting flack. People posting the final sequence without context and just ripping into it. It is a you got to appreciate a big swing from a director, a guy like Damien Chazelle, who obviously has done La La Land and was super successful with it. But this is the totally different direction. This is an overstuffed, like, there is shit pouring out of every pore of this movie, literally.
Within 2 minutes.
Exactly. It's about everything that makes Hollywood awful and amazing. And any movie lover, I don't see how you don't love this movie. Obviously, the runtime is what it is. But it's a movie for people like us, and I cannot get enough. And the score is, outside of Oppenheimer's score this year, it's my favorite score of the decade so far.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I love this one. This got quite a few votes in the Shelf Shock Rewind, by the way.
Nice.
This did come out in early 2023. I don't remember which category it was most loved for. It might just be best contemporary studio release. The 4K for this looks incredible.
Amazing.
I think that this is going to be one that is loved a handful of years from now when we get some separation from it and people go, oh, what was I thinking? This wasn't that bad. But honestly, that kind of feels that way for all of his films. Like, there's a lot of people that hated La La Land. Whiplash got hated for people because they thought it was too brutal. Like, no, there's just passionate people out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, Chazelle is. I mean, obviously, just comparing those three films, uh, one end of the spectrum to the other, just constantly. So the biggest thing, love it, but also, what the hell is he going to do next?
I don't know. I can't wait though.
Number 9 for me is possibly the first utterance of recency bias, but I have a feeling that Zone of Interest is going to last with me for quite some time. I really did not think that this was going to make my list, but then considering how I felt after watching it and the others that were close to the top of my list, this is one of the first ones that I definitely feel like I should watch again. I have no desire to for quite some time. This is not really a rewatcher for me because, man, those last 20 minutes are pretty hard.
Yeah, it's obviously films about the Holocaust are always difficult. But you've never seen a Holocaust movie like this before. This is, I said it at the top, Glazer chains you to your seat and forces you to live with these people. And it's hard to do. It's a difficult watch. I mean, you feel like you are in a box watching that movie. But it's kind of brilliant. I mean, the way that he constructs that film, and looking at his body of work, I mean, it's just what a step in, I mean, a bizarre direction. I mean,
Yeah.
coming off of, I mean, he's not making a ton of movies. He's made 4 movies in his career, but the variables between these movies, and it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Good
It's
choice. Yeah, I think
Wild Swing.
Yeah. All right, number 8. I'm just noticing this is my third 2022 movie in a row, so I guess I really loved that year. Decision to Leave, Park Chan-wook.
Wow.
It's the closest thing to a Brian De Palma film that we've gotten, like prime De Palma that we've gotten in the last few decades. It's there's not a wasted shot in it. Stylistically, it's pretty much superior to anything I've seen that you're going to see on this list from a cinematography point of view. It's one of the most beautiful films that I've seen in the last this decade. It's one of those movies that I could literally watch without subtitles and still love it and appreciate it for what it is visually. So Decision to Leave is hands down an easy choice for my top 10.
Something about this director is fascinating, and I mean that in the actual definition of the word, that no matter what he puts out, I will stare in just beautiful fascination because all of his pieces of work are astonishing. I mean, even like when they're brash and cold, even when they're comedic and some of the comedy doesn't always land, even when they're attempting to do action, even when it's genuinely thrilling, all of it is just how is he doing this well, and yet it doesn't stop.
No, there are very few people making films today that have his level of cinematic craftsmanship, and his cinema language is just it's just incredible. It's inspiring. As someone that creates visual, works in moving images, I am so inspired by watching his stuff.
Well said. Yeah, that's huge. My number 8 is similar to you, going back to the same year. It's my other favorite from this year, and I got to go with Past Lives from 2023. This movie is beautiful. It's meaningful for me for what I do in my day job. It is touching. It is so subtly acted. The face acting in this movie does not get enough attention. The way that there are certain emotions conveyed literally like with a curl of the lip in this movie, and it just flies under the radar. Didn't get any love from the Academy.
Yeah.
It's I get it that it's a quiet drama, romance infused modern retelling of the story, but it's so much deeper than that. I mean, even just the immigrant story alone embedded in this has never been told in this way, of discovering your past and going back to it and taking the infusing of your new culture, clashing that with your old culture, and basically just saying, let's see what wins. I mean, it's a beautiful story, and the three actors in this are just so underappreciated for what they turned in. Also,
Yeah,
the fact that this is a directorial debut is criminal.
it's kind of insane. I'm like ridiculously jealous that somebody can pump this out as their first film. Yeah, it's very Linklater-esque the way it deals with time.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
it's um, it's almost like a time travel movie without the time machine. It's like because you're going. It's done in sections of time. The way that it's put together is kind of brilliant. But yeah, it's the road not traveled. It's very poetic. It's very philosophical, and the performances are just like you said, subtle. There's not a weak performance. Even the
No.
husband, John Magaro, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He's great too. It's really a special film, and obviously a crazy first debut.
Can't wait to see what she does next. This is going to be
Yeah.
a strong career.
Okay, number 7. I have 2021's Licorice Pizza from Paul Thomas Anderson. For me, it's the quintessential coming of age story of the decade. It's probably the one film. Maybe not. I would say that it's probably the film I am most likely to revisit most moving forward, because it's sort of a timeless snapshot of a specific time, and it's sort of it feels universal in what it has to say. Alana Haim is incredible in the film. Paul Thomas Anderson. There are very few guys that have been as consistent as him through the years, and I think his new movie has DiCaprio in it. I've seen a few shots of on the street of him with a great mustache, and whatever his new film's going to be. So yeah, Licorice Pizza is my number 7.
It's a strong choice, and I feel terrible because it's one that I've not seen yet. I've been trying to watch Licorice Pizza for quite some time. It's PTA. It's one that I'm dying to see, and it seems so out of his ordinary that I want to watch it so bad. But
yeah, there's a real innocence to it, and that's not something you always get with him. And I love coming of age films, so
same.
it's kind of right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'll have to prioritize that for soon, for sure.
Totally.
Next one is one that I had heard hyped up so much, I immediately went, there's no way that this is going to be as good as everybody's saying it was. And then it was somehow able to exceed those expectations. And that was 2022's RRR.
Mm.
I am such a huge fan of this movie that I'm shocked and also not surprised at all that a couple of the songs from this took people in the country by storm. The fact that there was, Beyond Fest screenings and people up dancing in the aisles is mind blowing. But it goes to serve exactly what I said before we went into this. Experiences are going to sell theaters in the next 10 to 15 years. And with something like this is something that you go and join a culture, literally a culture that you were not a part of before this film. The moment you are in this audience, you are now a part of this own subset, and you can get lost in that moment. You can find something in yourself that you've never seen before. And for anybody that has never dove into Indian cinema, this is a really easy transition period to get into some of the more off the wall, borderline, what we would call silly compared to Western cinema, that is just so artistic and so much more textured than a lot of what we're used to. We're used to things that have this overly polished view of everything, and yet real great lasting Indian cinema is bumpy and not perfect and so incredibly well made for, like underground caverns that look way better than they have any right to, with some of the silliest acting that you've ever seen put in front of it. This is a really great step to get you into that, and I'm so glad that it delivered on that. And I adore this movie for everything that it did for Indian cinema, for everything that it did for people that love movies. This is incredible.
Yeah, man, that's a good choice. I mean, this is not only a gateway to a whole nother world of film that, not American audiences and, mainstream audiences can experience, but I mean, I brought up spectacle filmmaking. This movie is spectacle filmmaking. I mean, it is just kind of amazing. And I still to this day pull up the Natu Natu song on Netflix. It's paused on Netflix on that moment because I pull it up for like me and my daughter to dance around to like all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that a movie like that, as bonkers as it is and as long as it is,
Yep.
can be recognized not only during award season but by a mainstream Netflix audience. So good choice.
Glad you liked that.
All right, number 6. Where were we at? The Northman, 2022, Robert Eggers. I know you didn't love this one, but man, I've watched this 2 or 3 times since last year, I guess 2022, and it's just action, revenge, badassery, but it still has that Robert Eggers like patina of authenticity that we all love with him. It's just really stunning filmmaking, great performances. I'm a sucker for revenge movies anyway, and this movie kind of, as far as modern films go, is probably my favorite revenge film of the last probably 10 years or so. But yeah, I really, really love Robert Eggers, everything he's done. I can't wait for Nosferatu.
Same.
The commentary on this disc, the Northman was kind of hell for him to make. The studio, was a big pain in the ass. I mean, that's what happens when you get a budget like he had for that movie. I don't think he's ever going to work with a studio again. Probably. I don't think Nosferatu is a studio film. I think it might be back with A24, maybe actually.
I do think we need to redefine what studio means in 2024.
Yeah,
though.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's true. A24 has won 2 Academy Awards now for Best Picture. So,
well, and they're literally as powerful as most modern studios at this point.
Absolutely, you get the stamp of approval on them. You're set. I mean, I've been in theaters where people cheer when the A24 logo pops on the screen.
So true.
Really?
So true.
We're there now. But yeah, The Northman, my number 6 film. I think it was my number 1 movie of 2022.
Wow. I need to watch this one again. It very well may have been just the night that I watched it. I was not ready for a crazy revenge story like this. I do think this has some of the most beautiful sequences from that year for sure. Random off the wall, like I would not have guessed that this scene was going to be in this movie, and yet it is, and it's just stupendously directed. Eggers is great at what he does. I will give him that. It is a wonderfully directed movie for sure.
Yeah, there's some very surreal imagery in that movie that I am kind of obsessed with. It's bonkers. The fact that he got away with doing that film is kind of spectacular. There's a clip going viral now on social media. I'm sure you've seen it. It's the scene where I'm blanking out on the Skarsgård. Alexander Skarsgård jumps off the boat, and it's literally 30 seconds after he finds out that he knocked up his girlfriend. And so they're like, this is literally 30 seconds after he found out he knocked her up, and he's diving off the boat. So that's been going viral recently, but no context, obviously.
Yeah, of course not. There's no nuance on the internet these days.
No.
My next one, number 6. So this is This is an interesting one, and a lot of people probably think that this is his worst movie, and a lot of people are probably thinking that he's on this list primarily because he's been on this channel. I am needing to go with Sean Baker's Red Rocket. I like this movie way more than I ever expected to. This movie just felt, I mean, to be fair, all of Sean's stuff does that. It feels so real and just literally a filmmaker dropped in and took a snippet of somebody's life and put it on film, and yet everything in this delivers the enjoyable experience that I really wanted to, and it's funny and absurd and kind of gross and oh so very Texas, and hits so many necessary points that are real in people's lives, like poverty and stolen valor and things like statutory rape and all kinds of just weird things all roped into a movie that ends up just being just a good story told really remarkably well. And it gets this background of this borderline just straight boring Texas town, and because it's him, it is gorgeously filmed. I love everything about this. This movie was great. The disc release is surprisingly good. We have a Kat Ellinger commentary on an A24 release. I mean, this is a shockingly underappreciated movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't revisited it since I saw it. I remember liking it, not loving it, but Sean Baker's films in general are uniquely lived in. They're like there's no sugarcoating any of it. They're still cinematically shot, but
Yeah.
they are almost documentary like in their form. You know what I mean? It's a fascinating philosophy when it comes to shooting a movie. It's not necessarily my favorite style, but I can certainly appreciate something like that, despite the fact that the lead was a real scumbag.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Number 5, I have 2020's Possessor from Brandon Cronenberg. I really loved his debut, Antiviral, which was, I think, 7 or 8 years prior to this.
Yeah.
But for me, this was Brandon Cronenberg coming onto the scene. This was his arrival. It's a brilliant premise. Its in-camera effects are they're becoming more and more common now, but are sort of groundbreaking for 2020. A return to in-camera effects the way that he did them. It's immersive to the point of almost like repulsion. It's like you feel this movie. Like, it is dirty. It is uncomfortable. But it is also just beautifully crafted, and it is the arrival of, I think, one of the great young directors out there, and a guy whose films I will be there on opening night for as long as he's making them.
And I have a feeling we're going to hear more about him soon.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, this is a great pick. Love this movie. Need to rewatch it. This movie rocks and comes across as exciting in every scene, which a lot of movies, I understand they take a break. This movie doesn't do that very often. It is very much a let's start running and not slow down so we cross that finish line, and it's a great one. Love this movie.
Yeah, and it's he's taking a page from his dad, but it's not body horror with a wink and a nod the way that his dad does it. You know, his dad's movies are very funny. When you look at them, this has no humor in it whatsoever. This is a very cold and sanitary way of storytelling, but it's perfect for the story that it is. The body horror is more, I feel like, of the mind than it is the flesh. It's more, it's more psychological than it is outward body horror.
It's also very mechanical. Something about the last few years of both Cronenbergs is very, very mechanical. So it's it fits in very much in its time. My number five. So this is one that I got to be honest, I did not expect this one to show up on my list, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I have recommended this movie maybe more to more people in the last 4 years than any movie ever in my life. I watched this and felt like I was watching a horror movie, but realized there was nothing horror about it. This is one of the most awkward, cringe-inducing comedies that I've ever seen, and I had to put the masterpiece from Emma Seligman from 2020 on here called Shiva Baby. This delivered Rachel Sennett to the world in a way that I will never ever be able to thank her enough, because Rachel Sennett is a gift to cinema, and what she's done since this movie is amazing. What she continues to do will be great. For those that have no idea, somehow this got a pretty wonderful release from Utopia, which is an OCN partner label, through Vinegar Syndrome, and it is about a college graduate who has a sugar daddy, and she goes and sees this person, and then ends up at a family shiva. And as she's there, she recognizes that the sugar daddy is also there. And the big thing about this movie is they use the awkward tension of many different scenarios at the shiva to really make you feel horrible, and also laugh at almost every single scene. But what really got me about this movie is the music in this feels like it's straight up out of like Jordan Peele's Us. And they ripped that music, put it over an awkward party scene, and suddenly you feel like this family's about to get murdered. And somehow you're caught up in this, and your heart rate goes up, and yet you're laughing. And by the end, you go, what just happened? Everything about this is surprising and exciting, and something that you can look back on and go, I don't know what happened, but it's such a wonderful experience that I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, that's another good choice. I love that movie. That probably would be one of my my honorable mentions if I had to go back and do it. It you Rich, the music is brilliant. You're talking about we were talking about debuts before. I think that's a debut film as well. I
It
mean,
is,
that
yeah.
is pretty spectacular. And she followed it up with a movie that I didn't love as much, but I know has been almost globally gotten good ratings from, for Bottoms, also starring her. But yeah, I think that's a phenomenal choice. There are awkward moments in that film that are as horrific as anything that will be on any of our lists.
I'm so glad you agree.
My number four. I don't know how you do the comments and do this. I am like so like.
Ronnie says I tried to watch this, but it made me so irritated and anxious I switched it off after 30 minutes.
That's my wife. I can't watch anything that has any anxiety with her, because she's like, my life is stressful enough. I cannot watch this right now.
Yeah.
My number four is this year's Best Picture, Oppenheimer. It's
calling it now.
Nolan. You know, I talked about this movie a lot when we did our Oscar reveals. It's just this movie is a physical experience. At least it was for me. I saw it in the theater 3 times. I could drop everything right now and go watch it again. 3 hours, no problem. It's a shot of adrenaline. It's there are moments in this film where the score and the picture is just aligned, and it's one of the more overstimulating experiences that I think I've ever had in a movie theater. Where the music just hits right, and the visuals are almost they're almost experimental in a way.
Yeah.
And I just think it's about as close to a perfect movie as we've had this decade. You know, it's tough to top, and for mainstream audiences to really embrace it. Obviously, the director's Christopher Nolan. They're going to embrace anything he does, except for Tenet. But it's pretty cool, and it's definitely deserving of the number 4 spot on my list.
I laughed really hard. I think there was a quote from him this week that said, "You're not meant to understand everything in Tenet," and I just laughed so hard at like, okay,
All right,
got it,
people.
got
Okay.
it, Chris.
All right.
That's when he became Chris Nolan instead of Christopher. Yes, so Oppenheimer is an incredible film. It's a feat that to be able to make the world so interested in a biopic about what you could argue is a really not great person is something of a feat, and he did it in a way that it capitalized on the weirdest of things. Obviously, you've got a very famous lead actor, but not somebody that's known for being the lead in many things, and yet he hinged everything on this overwhelmingly just incredible performance from somebody that is so stoic. And in a lot of his performances, he is the exact opposite of that. He's like this weird underbelly creature in many of his films, and yet he is everything that he needed to be, like perfectly primp and totally just on top of everything in this movie. And the score is something that we could talk about probably for the next half hour alone.
Amazing.
It's incredible. But this being a popular movie is so odd to me. The fact that this got acclaim from people that you would never expect to watch this movie is such an interesting trend for film this year.
Yeah, I mean, almost universally applauded as for a theatrical experience. It's pretty cool. And we talked about Zone of Interest, the sound mix in that. There's some really interesting things going on with the mix in Oppenheimer too, especially if you've seen the film. During the moment that he gives his speech to the rowdy crowd after the test, or maybe it's after they actually dropped the bomb. No, it's after the test. It does some pretty horrific things visually and with the audio that are pretty jarring.
I think it was our episode on the Oscars where I brought it up, but I hope this continues. I feel like we are entering an incredible period for sound. Something about the last, I can't even say the last 2 years, but like the last 18 months of cinema has been amazing for sound. It really makes me jealous of everybody that has Atmos setups at home, and I hope to be able to get back there soon.
Yeah, I'm actually fortunate enough to have one set up. I never get to use it because my daughter sleeps at goes to bed at 8:00,
right?
And it shakes the house. So I don't ever get to use it, but it's nice to look at. But yeah, I mean, the medium has come so far visually, and there's only so many ways you can go. I mean, Jim Cameron's inventing his own medium, but the sound is really where you can elevate a movie, and there's so many channels now where there's so much nuance in the editing. It's pretty spectacular what they can do with the spatial editing when it comes to watching a movie, and that's why the theater experience is so important, because not many people have an Atmos setup or even surround sound.
Yeah, I would agree there. Talk to Me, I don't think would have worked nearly as well as it did on me in the theater if I was at home just watching it with my TV speakers.
Oh yeah, man. That thing, I mean, you hear whispers and are over your shoulder in that movie, man. That is an unbelievable mix.
Same thing, Evil Dead Rise did the same thing this last year.
Yeah. And horror really can highlight what that spatial audio can do. It's pretty special.
From Oppenheimer to my number 4, which I think if I gave everybody in the chat about 50 guesses at what my top 10 was going to be, I don't think anybody would have named this film. Most people have probably never even heard of this movie. I have to go with a movie from 2020 that immediately reinvigorated a love for so many things that I had as a child. And that was Adam Brody starring in The Kid Detective. Did you see The Kid Detective?
No, I did not.
So Adam Brody stars as literally a child detective. Obviously, he's not the child, but they show like when he was younger, he was solving cases for the neighborhood, silly things like who stole the bike or whatever like that. And then out of nowhere, he is an adult now, doesn't have a job, and he gets thrust in this situation where somebody found out that her boyfriend was murdered, and he is back on as the detective to find out who killed the boyfriend. And this is an R-rated version of everything I loved about the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, Scooby-Doo, Encyclopedia Brown novels, all wrapped up into this comedic masterpiece of modern nuance in just weird indie cinema. And everything about this leads into this crescendo of solving a mystery that is genuinely compelling in a movie that's very, very silly and is just so original. Everything about it is not being done in any other movie. Adam Brody is delivering a performance that is done in earnest, but also as this person that's very desperate and lost and needing to find himself. And it's so well done, and hardly anybody has seen this. Easily one of my favorites, one that I've watched multiple times. I can't even remember who told me about this movie. It's one I had to seek out because I didn't know it existed. I had to go find that it was even released. This movie's amazing.
This is the sound of me adding it to my watch list. I'm sold. I mean, that sounds great. I don't know that I knew that. I don't know what that is. I don't think I've ever heard of that movie. So that's a great choice. I mean, anytime I can add a movie to my watch list, I'm in.
I think most people in the chat, especially if you're anywhere near my age, give or take 10 years on either side, and you remember those mystery stories growing up, you will probably love it.
Yeah, I think you and I are like almost exactly the same age.
Yeah.
I turned 37 in May.
I just turned 37 last month.
So yeah, there you go.
Perfect timing. Top three.
Top three. My number three, a 2021 film by another exciting young director who I can't wait to see what she does next. Titan from Julia Ducournau. French film. Her follow-up to her 2016 film, which I also loved, Raw. Now, this movie is bonkers. This movie is... it won the Palme d'Or that year. It's a movie where you easily accept that a person is knocked up by a Cadillac. And that's like the third or fourth weirdest thing that happens in the movie. You really have to be on this film's wavelength early. But for me, at least, I bought in instantly with the first shot of the film. And so I was there for it from the very beginning. You don't really know, I hate to be cliche, you don't really know whether to laugh, cry, or like vomit while watching this film. It's I must have a thing for body horror because it's like the third or fourth film on here. But this is very Cronenbergian. Like, this movie is it has a voice that not many films are being made like this. Being made by a woman director in 2021, it feels meaningful. And I can't wait to see what she does next. I mean, she's 2 for 2. Those two first films. I mean, in the horror community, to have those as your top two, because I do consider it more of a horror film. Titan, Raw is more overtly horror, but that's an exciting young filmmaker.
I agree. I've enjoyed both of these immensely.
Help me out. Thank you, Sibner.
Ducournau.
Yeah.
I believe Titan was. I'd have to look at my list real quick. I think it's 12 on my list, so it's in my honorable mentions. This is definitely up there for me. I loved Raw. I really want to do. It sounds like it would be a really obvious double feature, but I kind of really want to watch Raw and Titan in one night and just see how they vibe together, because they're so different. Yet her style, like, it's still there. The tone of what she's doing is just subservient in a weird, interesting way. And Raw seems to have this lasting power that broke a little more mainstream than Titan did, which I get it, because there's no car fucking in Raw. But Something about both movies, they're just really well done, and it feels weird to say the chemistry about a movie about car fucking, but the chemistry in both films really works, and it's so organic that you don't doubt it at all.
Yeah, it's provocative without trying to be provocative. Like the car fucking is one thing, but there's so much more being said in that movie.
Right.
It's it's really it's very it's there's not many voices out there that are this like signature and loud, and it's really fierce filmmaking. Like there's like jagged edges everywhere, but that's part of what makes the film great.
Fully agree. Yeah, this is a big one. If you've not sought it out yet, strongly recommend it. Sibner's pointing out that there was rumblings that Second Sight may have it, considering they did Raw
Mhm.
and some others that were with decal, just like this one. So it's possible that that's coming, but also there's a decent looking blue out there, just in case you just want to get something cheap to check it out first. It's well worth your time.
Yeah, Second Sight would be a great home for that.
I agree. And also, this could be a really great 4K release. It's a beautiful movie.
This would be yeah. I would happily upgrade to 4K with this one.
Number three. Wow, I thought I was on two. Number three. This is no surprise for anybody, I'm sure. 2022's Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is one from the first 4 years that I firmly believe we're going to be going back to for decades. This movie is going to be exciting for people that are discovering it in a few years and go, I heard about this for so long. What is this? Oh my God, this is amazing. But the thing that I'm maybe more excited about, imagine the people this is going to inspire. What we're going to see in 8 years from filmmakers that saw this when they were 18, 19 and went, how interesting can I make something coming out of film school in 2029? How can I, approach my filmmaking in a way that tells a story that I never thought I was allowed to tell until I saw this film? And the way this can open those sort of storylines for people is breathtaking. The performances in this are amazing. I've waxed poetic on this channel long enough about this movie, but this movie is emotional in every single emotion that you can think of, and beautiful all at once.
Yeah, it's for a movie like that to win Best Picture, and not only Best Picture, but just sweep every
Everything.
everything everywhere all at once. It's kind of amazing. I mean, I love weird movies. I love weird shit. And that movie, the first time I watched it, almost was a little too weird for me, and it won Best Picture. I since watched it 2 or 3 times, and it's one of those movies that really gets better as the more you
Yep.
watch it. There's so many layers on in that film, and you brought up the performances. It's just Michelle Yeoh and the return of Ki Hu Kwan, and it's just it's kind of a miracle of a movie, for everything to come together. So many moving pieces and so many different genres it's operating in, for it to come together so beautifully and perfectly and really be kind of heartwarming at its core. It's really kind of a miracle film for me.
I teased the Patreon stuff earlier. One of the things that I'm doing for Patreon in the next couple weeks is I haven't done a pickup video in a couple months because I've been so busy, and I'm going to limit the number of films that I show. But I have something from Everything Everywhere All at Once that I think people will be really excited to see. That I'm astonished that I have it, and I can't wait for people to revel in the artistic side of it.
Ooh,
So
what a tease!
come check it out.
Where are we at?
Number two.
Number two, the second appearance for this filmmaker. I'm really, as I'm going through this, there's quite a theme to my list. Infinity Pool, 2023.
Not number one. Interesting.
Number two, Infinity Pool. I talked about this movie a lot during our Oscar show. It's just sort of a visual orgy of bodily fluids and weird filters and sound effects, and yeah, it goes places that a lot of outside of mainstream films won't go. The unrated cut is crazy. It's the things on there are kind of amazing. This thing really has you squirming in your seat. I just really love brash young filmmakers like Cronenberg and two or three of the other filmmakers that I brought up tonight. It's just they're doing things that really inspire me, and that's kind of how I did this list. What are the films that make me want to get out of my seat and create? Whether it be it could be anything. I'm lucky enough to have a job where I can sort of tunnel a lot of this inspiration into. But this is a movie that I have revisited 3 or 4 times over the year, and it's you would be hard pressed to find something more original than this on my list, and that's saying something given I just talked about Teton. But I really believe that. And Cronenberg, like I said when I talked about Possessor, he's a filmmaker who I will see anything he puts out on opening night.
Interesting. I could have sworn this was going to be your number one, and I'm just now itching to hear what that is.
Yeah, I forgot about this one when I brought up my top movie of 2022.
Damn. My number 2 happens to be a 2022 film, so I'm going to go with that one next. And I think that this is, I think for years I'm going to look at this as one of the most outstanding directorial debuts ever, and that's Charlotte Wells' After Sun.
That's my number
one. Okay. As a father of young children, as somebody that has bawled watching this movie twice, this movie is special. Paul Mescal gives maybe one of the best performances of the last 10 years that I cannot fathom. I'm starting to get like goosebumps and tear up a little bit right now.
Yeah.
He takes what it is raising young children and makes it into this like happily tragic story. And the ending needle drop for this is one of the most immediately gratifying scenes that you'll see in any film. Charlotte Wells directed this movie in a way that is so magnetic to draw you into every scene, when overall this is not a story where a lot happens. This is a very slow, just dramatic tale of childhood, essentially. But in that, it's a tale of childhood, but it's more of a story of the parenthood behind that childhood. And when you see the way that Mescal and Frankie Corio are together and not related in any real way, it seems impossible. They interact in the most authentic way compared to any other film on my list, I think. This is a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's my number 1 movie of the decade, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time, I think. There are very few movies, and well said by you, there are very few movies that have ever impacted me the way that this movie does. And it's sneaky about it. Like you said, it's very slow, but when it hits, it really hits. The film's final moments, all I have to do is think about them, and I feel myself on that verge of just a total waterworks. It's forever changed that song, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Pressure. Without a doubt. It's absolutely brilliant. And Charlotte Wells, we brought up our age. She actually is I think she turns 37 like a week or 2 before me, so she's like exactly the same age as us. And so we would have been the same age as Frankie Corio's character at the time that this film was taking place. And so a lot of it is there's a weird authenticity to the way that the story is unfolding. it's the way that I interpret it is, it's if you grew up when we grow up, my dad always, we had a camcorder in the family, and so he always had a camcorder on his shoulder, taping everything. And so, in a lot of my memories of my youth, I'm never quite sure if they're my memories or they're memories of the videos that I watched later on. And this movie kind of perfectly, um, it encapsulates that feeling for the
Yeah.
entire runtime. And then it takes what that nostalgia and that storytelling device and turns you on your head with a climax that is as good as good a final 10 minutes of a film maybe that I've ever seen. I don't want to be speaking hyperbole here, but it's I am so moved by the final moments of this film. And you don't have to be a dad to appreciate this film. This film is able to manipulate your emotions in a way, whether you're 80 years old or 10 years old or whatever your gender may be. It's at the end of the day, it's just good storytelling, and
Yeah.
it's a masterpiece. I don't like throwing around that word, but it's a masterpiece, and it's a film that I knew immediately after I finished watching it that it was not only my favorite movie of the year, but it's going to be something that is going to be part of my life forever. It's that important of a movie to me. So hard. I mean, it's a hard sell.
I'm amazed. I think this was our only crossover, and I love that it's this one. I mean,
Yeah, me too, man.
this movie is so good. I I'm genuinely like on the verge of tears right now just thinking about this because
Yeah,
there's so many scenes like you brought up the camcorder. It plays such a big part in this that you are you're witnessing almost like third hand some of these stories and feeling nostalgia that is crafted in a way like I felt nostalgia for things I never experienced. I mean,
yeah,
these single parent vacations, that was never a thing for me. I also didn't even really have vacations like this as a child. I didn't get to go to places like this, and yet because I was that perfect age through the story that they were telling when it was being told, it felt so real. Everything about this was it just delivered. I mean, there's a few movies, and funny enough, they're all A24 that have done the same sort of thing. Lady Bird is an incredible piece of 2002 period piece. It hits it perfectly. The attire, the slang, the weird, awkward maneuvering of teenagers at that time. I was that age for when Lady Bird was made. It was exactly what it was. The mid '90s movie that Jonah Hill made, the exact same thing,
yeah.
nails the skate culture of the 90s in a way that it is an incredible period piece. But this is the piece de resistance of A24's period pieces for people our age. This is truly a masterpiece, and if you haven't checked it out, I urge you to in a way that is borderline adamant. This is like a must see for film lovers.
Yeah, everybody, absolutely. This is if you get one thing out of this stream tonight, go see this movie and support Kino Lorber.
All right. In a classic Ryan fashion, my number one is a bit of a cheat because I don't know if it even counts as a movie, but it's on Letterboxd, so I'm going to say yes. I think because the first 4 years of this decade are really summed up by the pandemic, I have to go with something that is the best piece of pandemic art that we could have ever hoped for, and that's Bo Burnham's Inside. This thing and the follow up, the Inside Outtakes, are filled with music and musings of a modern Shakespearean artist that is delivering on renaissance levels of artistry that we can't comprehend through most of the other people that we pay attention to. This is an individual that has directed films, starred in films, done stand-up comedy, started on YouTube in his parents' attic, literally, and he is somehow delivering the most philosophical versions of turning 30, modern social media hot takes, um, being frustrated with the billionaire culture that we find ourselves in, being prescient about how the inflation is going to fuck us all over and how that just sucks, being honest about how many people were stuck inside and genuinely I mean, trigger warning for anybody dealing with it, but genuinely suicidal during this time. Uh, I get it, and you were not alone. And Bo Burnham delivers that message so specifically that I really hope everybody out there has been subjected to this at some point, because it is a hand holding through, for many people, the most harrowing time of modern life. I mean, people lost loved ones that they had no reason to lose just because some people didn't wear a mask or didn't get vaccinated or didn't pay attention. I mean, we've had a lot of loss based on this, and this is like one of the only good things that I can say came from the pandemic.
Wow. Yeah, I actually have never seen this, and I know about this because I visited your letterbox, and it's your header on your letterbox, and so it's been on my radar, and I'm kind of upset and disappointed that I didn't watch it during that time, because it feels like a very important moment to have seen that. But that's I think that's a great choice. I don't think that that's definitely a worthy choice of number one for sure.
Sibner here comments, I feel like such an outsider since I'm one of those weirdos that flourished during the pandemic. And I got to admit, I feel literal guilty that I'm the same. I didn't lose anybody close to me. The closest person that passed due to COVID was a parent of my sister-in-law's boyfriend. It's not related to me in any way, but it's, it affected a lot of us. I feel so affected by it primarily because of my kids. I mean, my youngest was 3.5 years old at the start of the pandemic, and so in preschool doing virtual learning, that doesn't work.
Yeah, so my daughter was born March 20th, 2020. So
holy shit.
The world shut down like 7 days prior.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to even be allowed in the delivery room. But it was a scary time. I mean, the hospital was silent. We couldn't leave the room. It was an eerie time to have a baby, and it obviously went against every plan that we had over the prior 9 months. But if you take one good thing out of the pandemic, and you kind of have to without going crazy, is that I got to spend all of that time with my daughter after she was born. Time that I would not necessarily have had because of my job and what March usually and going into April usually means, which is opening day, the beginning of a baseball season. The baseball season didn't start that year until July. And so I got to spend those first 3+ months with my daughter that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So yeah, I'm actually in agreement that there was some good to come out of it for me, or you have to take some good out of it. That would be it.
Yeah. The guilt that comes from that is odd to grapple with. And
Yeah,
I think
totally.
there's some of that in Inside. And I just, if you've never checked it out, it's on Netflix. The Inside Outtakes, I think, are also on Netflix, but I believe that was also on YouTube. They're both masterpieces. I'm sure you've heard some of the music from it just through life. It's very, very worth it.
Yeah, I will definitely have to check that out.
Any honorable mentions you want to highlight?
Honorable mentions. Let me pull it up real quick. I think I have a few. honorable mentions. I brought up Shiva Baby. That would definitely be on there. That was one of my favorite films of the year that came out. Here we are. From this year alone, some honorable mentions would be The Killer, Poor Things, and When Evil Lurks. Those would be my probably top 20 to 25 of the year. A movie that I actually rated, I think in my number 2 or 3 of the year 2022 was Bones and All. That would be an honorable mention for me. That's a movie that I felt very strongly about when it came out. That has not really stayed with me as much as some other stuff has. That's why it didn't really make my list. Another couple other honorable mentions would be Nightmare Alley from 2021, a movie that I absolutely adored from Guillermo del Toro. Also, what else I have on here? Benedetta, which I also love from 2021. And Saint Maud from 2020. That would probably be an honorable mention. Rose Glass's film. And the Charlie Kaufman film, I'm thinking of Ending Things. That would probably be one of my honorable mentions.
Just off my list, if I didn't include inside, my number 10 was going to be X and Pearl as a cheat. I think X is more my style, but Pearl is also incredible. I had Titan at 12, like I said. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is amazing. Love that movie. Another A24. Underwater, like I mentioned. And then finally, one that I think people forget because I think I watched it the week before the pandemic lockdown. The Invisible Man, the Blumhouse Invisible Man. I loved that movie.
Yeah, that movie was killer. That was what a movie. I mean, there are a few moments in that film that have kind of become iconic. They're really, which you don't always get from mainstream horror or stuff like reboots and stuff like that. There are a few moments in that movie that will kind of live forever.
Fully agreed. So again, after tonight, hopefully everybody's checked out After Sun, Infinity Pool, The Kid Detective, Shiva Baby, Titan, RRR,
Elvis.
Oh man, that's a good pick too. Ronnie says The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yeah, that I'm not a big animation guy, but I love that movie.
That movie's incredible.
Yeah.
God, this has been a really good episode. I'm so happy that you came on. I'm glad
man,
that you had a chance.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This was I literally have not missed an episode. Not always here live, but I haven't missed an episode since you've been doing this. And so it's honestly my honor to be here. This is so much fun.
John and I were talking before we went live. I think this month is 2.5 years of Reconnected, which is wild, and only missed one episode ever.
Why was that, Ryan?
It was because of the Mets, which is a weird sentence to say because I've never done anything because of the Mets other than when I celebrated when they lost in 2015.
Good times.
Yeah, this has been great. Like I said, check out the link for the Patreon in the description below if you're so inclined. Lots of stuff coming out. If you are interested in cinematic flares in baseball, there's no one better than John Demarsico at SNY for the New York Mets. Please try to check out some of those. And if you just want to see an example of them, check out the interview I did with John. It's a really great piece. He's done some incredible things that has literally been seen by millions.
Yeah, and we've got some fun stuff planned for this year. There's a prospect this year that of a actual filmmaker being involved in some way with what we do on the Mets production side that I really hope comes to fruition. It's a big deal.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'll tell you offline, Ryan. We can tease folks.
Chad, I'll tell you next Thursday. I'm kidding. Of course I won't. Yeah, this has been incredible. Everybody, please come back next Thursday. We got a fun conversation planned for next week. It's going to be a big one. Celeste is coming back. The big thing is Shelf Shock Rewind is right after the next week's show. So I had to have Celeste on to hype it up. So we will see you next week. Come hang out. And until next time, have a good week. Stay safe. And we'll see you then. Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share with someone else that may appreciate this.